Chapter 401. The Five Gods Intimidation Technique was a high-level illusion technique that originated from the Five Gods Flowing Light technique. Lung Shiqi had already cultivated it to the realm of large success with his own comprehension. Moreover, with the support of his majestic mental energy and the divine Gu Ring, he had instantly caused Uzimo, a cultivator at the 6th level of the spirit aperture realm, to fall into the illusion. This was also the moment when Lung Shiqi caught Uzimo's mind off guard. Uzimo's mind was temporarily controlled by the Five Gods Intimidation technique. Lung Shiqi waved his arms, and hundreds of sword chi rose behind him. The color of these sword chi was very strange. Every sword chi was red and blue, but the color was very light and looked a little translucent. Each of these sword chis was a combination of pulse-punching sword chis, frigid frost sword chis, and Shaoyang sword chis. Every single sword chi was comparable to a 5th-tier spiritual skill, but Lung Shiqi had unleashed over 100 sword chis of the 3 severing sword. The sword chi whistled through the air and shot over. Gu Xiaoping, who had come with Uzimo, saw that Uzimo was in danger, but he was still in a daze. His expression changed and he flicked his fingers, causing a few finger attacks to hit Uzimo's body. Uzimo was attacked by Gu Xiaoping, but it helped him recover a trace of consciousness. He relied on this trace of consciousness to instantly burn his essence blood, and finally get rid of the illusion of the Five Gods Intimidation technique. After burning his essence blood, Uzimo's battle strength was comparable to the late stage of the spirit aperture realm, but he did not fight back. Instead, he chose to escape. Uzimo took out a spirit sword, and the blue sword chi rolled back, shattering the sword chi of the 3 gods intimidation technique one after another. However, there were too many sword chi. Even if Uzimo tried his best to dodge, there were still 20 to 30 sword chi of the 3 gods intimidation technique that hit him. When the sword chi entered his body, Uzimo's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. What shocked him even more was that after the strange sword chi entered his body, there were 3 completely different forces that burst out. One of them was as hot as fire, constantly burning his meridians and flesh. Another one was as cold as ice, freezing his body. The last one actually sealed his meridians, causing his spirit chi to not flow smoothly. What kind of sword chi was this? Uzimo's body was already in a mess, and he couldn't move for a moment. His heart was extremely shaken, and he was already regretting it. Even if he had information on Lung Shiqi, he did not expect Lung Shiqi's strength. Lung Shiqi is too strong. He was so powerful that he was terrified. Would he be able to control such a person? At this moment, Uzimo only wanted to hide at Duan Chun's place when he returned. All the plans against Lung Shiqi would be left to Duan Chun. There was nothing he could do. However, no matter how much he calculated, he did not consider one thing. That was Lung Shiqi's courage and Lung Shiqi's determination to kill him. Lung Shiqi pointed his finger, and a blood-red lightning bolt as thick as an arm shot out. In the blink of an eye, it blasted Uzimo's head into pieces. Gu Xiaoping and the other 2 were instantly dumbfounded. Uzimo was dead? Uzimo was actually dead. They looked at Lung Shiqi's calm expression, and their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. The 3 of them were terrified of Lung Shiqi's strength, and even more terrified of Lung Shiqi's madness. Lung Shiqi actually dared to kill Uzimo, who was also a supervisor. According to the rules of the Dark Thunder Guards, this was a life for a life, but he still did it. What made Gu Xiaoping and the other 2 even more terrified was that Lung Shiqi's gaze turned towards them. Lung Shiqi's gaze was still very calm. He looked at the 3 of them as if he was looking at 3 lifeless rocks. "Run!" Gu Xiaoping shouted, and then used all his strength to explode with the fastest speed in his life to escape Dark Thunder Manor. However, he had only taken 2 steps when he realized that he could no longer move. Gu Xiaoping looked down and saw that the ground was actually covered with spider webs, and the ground of the entire courtyard was like a swamp. Not only was it difficult for him to move, it was also slowly sinking him into it. This was the bone spirit spider web formation that Lung Shiqi created by combining the Gu spirit spider web and the Hand of Earth. It was used to trap enemies. Not only Gu Xiaoping, but the other 2 were the same. Lung Shiqi once again unleashed hundreds of triple extinction sword chi, and the sword chi fell like rain. Screams were heard, and Gu Xiaoping and the other two were all dead. He secretly absorbed their remnant souls and frowned unhappily. A good meeting room was destroyed, what a pity. Leng Shiqi's subordinates, with the exception of Qin Jianchen, were all shocked as well. They were shocked by Leng Shiqi's strength, and even more shocked by Leng Shiqi's courage. Yu Zimo was a supervisor, and he was killed just like that? They had all guessed that Leng Shiqi would attack, but they never thought that Leng Shiqi would kill. Guan Feihong was the first to wake up. What he was most worried about was what to do next. Since they had already been killed, they could not be revived. Leng Shiqi killed a supervisor and 3 Dark Lightning envoys. The supervisor of the North County, Duan Chun, would definitely not sit by and do nothing. The most important thing now was to think of a way to deal with Duan Chun. Guan Feihong was just about to speak when he saw that Leng Shiqi actually went to pick up Yu Zimo's personal mustard seed bag. Looking at his expression, he did not seem to care about this matter. Guan Feihong's mouth was open for a long time, but he could not say anything. He knew that Leng Shiqi was not an impulsive person. Since Leng Shiqi did this, he must have thought of what to do next. Right now, he only needed to listen to Leng Shiqi's orders. After picking up the mustard seed bag, Leng Shiqi asked, "Where is the Dark Lightning Manor under Yu Zimo's jurisdiction?" Guan Feihong immediately replied, "It's in Deer Marshal City, about 300 li from here." Leng Shiqi nodded. Qiu Cheng, Xiao Qian and Qin Jianchen will stay behind and finish building the meeting hall. Old Guan and Qianming will come with me to Deer Marshal City. The 5 of them said in unison, "We obey." After that, Leng Shiqi brought Guan Feihong and Qianming to Deer Marshal City. As for the remaining people, Qin Jianchen went back to consolidate his cultivation. His role in Dark Lightning Manor was to use his martial strength to intimidate the weak. Xiao Qian immediately sent people to the courtyard to prepare to rebuild the meeting hall. As for Qiu Cheng, he used all of his intelligence methods to seal up everything that happened today. 2 days later, Leng Shiqi and the other 2 arrived at Deer Marshal City. The scale of Deer Marshal City was slightly larger than Misty City. It was not as remote as Misty City, and there were more merchants coming and going. At this time, Leng Shiqi, Guan Feihong and Yu Zimo walked together to the entrance of Deer Marshal City's Dark Lightning Manor. Yu Zimo put on an extremely ugly expression as he walked in. He opened his mouth and shouted, "Men, open the treasury's door." Chapter 402. Yu Zimo had 4 Dark Lightning envoys under him. Now that 3 of them were dead, only Lu Ziming was left in Dark Lightning Manor. Lu Ziming was also a veteran. He didn't open the door to the treasury. Instead, he hurriedly ran over. However, when he saw Leng Shiqi and Guan Feihong beside Yu Zimo, he was stunned. He recognized Leng Shiqi. There was a portrait of Leng Shiqi in Dark Lightning Manor's intelligence. Naturally, he knew that Leng Shiqi was the supervisor of Lanqi City. Lu Ziming also knew that his lord had been squeezing Leng Shiqi for a few months to obtain a large amount of resources. Now that the 2 of them came together, Lu Ziming was worried. Especially when he saw Yu Zimo's gloomy face, he guessed that his lord must have been defeated. Yu Zimo glanced at Lu Ziming and immediately shouted, "What are you waiting for?" Lu Ziming didn't dare to disobey the order. After a slight hesitation, he jogged towards the treasury. Leng Shiqi and Guan Feihong silently followed him. When they opened the treasury door, they saw a large amount of resources inside. More than 70 to 80% of them were transported from Leng Shiqi. However, Leng Shiqi felt that it was still too little. In the past few months, the resources that Yu Zimo pulled from him far exceeded what he had now. As for the rest, it must have gone into Duan Chun's pocket. Yu Zimo looked around and ordered, "Move all the resources to Lanqi City." Lu Ziming turned pale with fright when he heard that. All of them. Then what about the monthly salary of the Dark Lightning Guards under them next month? However, he didn't dare to ask in front of the 2 supervisors. He only looked deeply at Leng Shiqi and went to call for his men. Leng Shiqi said in a low voice, "I've said it before. No matter how much resources Yu Zimo took, he would return it with interest." Yu Zimo turned and smiled. "My lord is wise." This Yu Zimo was obviously Thousand Face in disguise. Leng Shiqi was never impulsive. After he came out of seclusion, he began to plan how to get rid of Uzimo and take back his resources. Killing Uzimo and his 3 subordinates and getting Thousand Face to impersonate Uzimo to bring back all the resources here was the first step. Thousand Faces asked, "Your Excellency, what should we do next?" Leng Shiqi and Thousand Faces knew very well that they were able to fool Lu Mingzi because as subordinates, they did not dare to spy on their superior's cultivation. That was why Thousand Face dared to pretend to be Uzimo, who was in the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm. However, this method was useless against Duan Chun, who could see through Thousand Faces' disguise with a single glance. Since that was the case, then don't let Duan Chun and Thousand Face encounter each other. Leng Shiqi said. Immediately go and pacify the Dark Thunder Guards here. Then claim that you are recuperating in seclusion. I want to go to Duan Chun's place. Your Excellency. Guan Feihong and Thousand Face both looked nervous. Duan Chun was a master in the gang spirit realm. He must have something on Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi was strong enough to kill Uzimo, but he was no match for Duan Chun. What should they do if Duan Chun used his strength to suppress them? Don't worry. Leng Shiqi waved his hand and said, how can I go to him without preparation? Besides, even if he is in the gang spirit realm, he may not be able to do anything to me. After that, Leng Shiqi left, and Guan Feihong was responsible for escorting the resources back to Lanqi City. However, both of them were thinking about Leng Shiqi's last words at the moment, and then they were both shocked. Speaking of Duan Chun, as the supervisor of North County, the city he was in was the largest and most prosperous city in North County, Hanzhou City. Duan Chun had been living a very comfortable life for the past few months, because most of the resources that Uzimo obtained from Leng Shiqi had been given to him, the great supervisor. Although there were not many high-level resources, there were a lot of them. As long as he had the resources in his hands, many things became simple. At this time, Duan Chun was sitting in the courtyard, looking at the mission information leisurely. North County was very peaceful recently, so he had nothing important to deal with, so he was relatively free. This was all thanks to Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi had killed the Xianyang sect, which could be regarded as a deterrent to those restless people in North County, so it was very quiet during this time. However, at this moment, a Dark Thunder Guard ran in quickly from outside, but he did not make any footsteps, because Duan Chun did not like to be disturbed by noise. After running in, the man bowed his head and said nothing. Duan Chun put down the information with a little displeasure and said, tell me, what's the matter? Only then did the Dark Thunder Guard speak. Your Excellency, Supervisor Lu Xingji of Dark Thunder Mansion in Lanqi City wants to see you. Who? Duan Chun's face stiffened slightly, thinking that he had heard wrongly. Lu Xingji. Duan Chun was a little surprised when he heard this, because Uzimo had continuously sent him a lot of resources. He always thought that Leng Shiqi had already compromised. Then, why did he come to see him today? However, he had to see him. After all, he still had to give him face, so he said, please go to the hall. Yes, Your Excellency. Not long after, Leng Shiqi saw Duan Chun in the hall. After the two met, Leng Shiqi said, Duan Chun, I'm here to thank you today. Duan Chun had just walked into the hall, and before one of his feet landed, he actually stopped when he heard these words. He looked at Leng Shiqi with a strange expression, thinking that he had heard wrongly. What did you say? You didn't even hear that? Duan Chun, could it be that your eyesight has gone bad? Leng Shiqi did not give the great supervisor any face and directly mocked him coldly. Duan Chun's face instantly darkened. It had been a long time since someone dared to speak to him like this, and this person was actually his subordinate. And it was a subordinate that he had blackmail on. He immediately shouted angrily, Lu Xingji, who gave you the guts to speak to me like this? Believe it or not, I can punish you for the crime of disrespect right now. Leng Shiqi shook his head and said, Duan Chun, you've been the great supervisor for so long, but you're still so stupid and greedy. It's not that I didn't give you any benefits for what I did in Lanqi City, but you went from bad to worse and joined forces with Uzimo to take away more than half of my resources. Don't you think about why I dared to do this? Humph. Duan Chun sneered proudly and said, You think I don't know? You once secretly went to find Sir Yu Ruifeng, and you must have given him a lot of benefits to get his acquiescence. But so what? You secretly killed Dark Thunder envoy Gongsun Bing, and more than 20 of his Dark Thunder guards, and I have conclusive evidence here. Once this matter is exposed, even Sir Yu can't protect you. Sigh. Leng Shiqi suddenly sighed again. Duan Chun thought that he had given in, but who knew that Leng Shiqi actually asked him back? Then why don't you think about it again? Why am I so unyielding and daring to be so presumptuous in front of you? Chapter 403. Duan Chun's angry expression disappeared in an instant, and then his eyes flickered. He stared at Leng Shiqi carefully. Only then did he realize that Leng Shiqi's cultivation had reached the 5th level of the Spirit Aperture realm. But Duan Chun clearly remembered that when he saw Leng Shiqi for the first time in the Western Wilderness City, he was only at the 5th level of the Spirit Aperture realm. How long had it been? In about half a year, Leng Shiqi's cultivation had soared by a whole realm. This kind of strange cultivation speed was too inconceivable. Even Duan Chun, who had lived for decades and seen a lot, couldn't help but be surprised. He had to re-examine Leng Shiqi. In particular, he wanted to know what Leng Shiqi had experienced when he and Yu Ruifeng went to Zhulu country. Since they came back from Zhulu country, Yu Ruifeng didn't say a word about what happened there. Duan Chun only knew that the supervisor of South Commandery was dead, but he didn't know anything else. It seems that Lu Xingji had a fortuitous encounter in Zhulu country. However, the reason why Duan Chun dared to get benefits from Leng Shiqi was that he didn't have a strong background and experience. In Duan Chun's mind, Leng Shiqi's backer was his master Chu Hejing, who was in the realm of oneness of heaven and men. However, Chu Hejing was just a casual cultivator. Even if he was in the realm of oneness of heaven and men, he had almost the same weight as the supervisor. Moreover, he saw clearly that although Yu Ruifeng was very polite to Chu Hejing and gave him the position of supervisor of Leng Shiqi, he was just pretending. But in reality, Duan Chun was just pretending to be nice to Chu Hejing. That was why he dared to attack Leng Shiqi. At this moment, Leng Shiqi showed his cultivation at the 5th level of the Spirit Aperture realm. Spirit Aperture realm was nothing in Duan Chun's eyes, but the speed of Leng Shiqi's progress made him a little scared. If Leng Shiqi advanced to the Gang Spirit realm in time, how should Duan Chun deal with it? So he couldn't fall out with Leng Shiqi now. Duan Chun made up his mind. Squeezing out a smile on his face, he sat down and said, "Your cultivation has advanced so quickly. You must have had some opportunities in Zhulu country. Now that you're also in the Spirit Aperture realm, it seems like you've secured your position as supervisor." Leng Shiqi had already guessed Duan Chun's thoughts when he was pondering, but he didn't give Duan Chun any face. Of course you can sit firmly in the position of supervisor. In the future, you may even be able to become a great supervisor. The smile on Duan Chun's face suddenly disappeared. It was true that he did not want to fall out with Leng Shiqi, but it did not mean that he could tolerate Leng Shiqi's arrogance again and again. His voice was cold as he said, "So you've already set your sights on my position. Very good, very good. Then let me see if you're qualified." After Duan Chun finished speaking, he didn't do anything, but green spiritual energy suddenly burst out from his back. As soon as the spiritual energy appeared, the whole hall was instantly filled with violent spiritual energy. The green spiritual energy condensed into a long spear, roaring and thrusting straight. Duan Chun just wanted to let Leng Shiqi know that Gang Spirit Realm was not someone he could offend. Leng Shiqi was still sitting in the chair. He moved his hands together, and hundreds of silver-gray threads surged out from his hands. Those threads were like small snakes, constantly twisting and entangling the spiritual energy spear. Seeing this, Duan Chun's eyes flashed with a touch of disdain. However, those silver-gray threads did not collapse in an instant as he imagined, but tenaciously blocked the green spiritual spear. And the silver-gray threads also contained a penetrating cold force, which was constantly eroding his spiritual energy. In just 1 or 2 breaths, the spiritual energy spear was worn out. This move was the cold dark thousand silken hands that Leng Shiqi had created by fusing the dark cold dark hands and the silver silk thousand brushing hands. Although the cold thousand threads hands was not very powerful, It was the best weapon for entanglement. In particular, it could restrict the enemy's movement and erode the body with the cold force, hurting the enemy invisibly. Lung Shiqi easily resolved Duan Chun's attack, which made Duan Chun somewhat unable to sit still. Although Duan Chun just made a casual attack, his cultivation was at the 3rd level of Gang Spirit realm. Apart from other things, Gang Spirit alone was dozens of times stronger than spiritual qi. How could Lung Shiqi take it so easily? Moreover, Lung Shiqi didn't seem to use all his strength. This caused Duan Chun's old face to be put on the spot. He wanted to teach Lung Shiqi a lesson by relying on his high cultivation, but this was the result. Duan Chun's eyes became fierce. He formed a sword with his fingers, and then the torrential cyan sword gang swept over like a rolling river. The whole hall suddenly trembled. This time, Duan Chun didn't hold back at all. He used all his spiritual qi. Lung Shiqi couldn't help but become dignified, but he didn't panic. The devil arrival saber, which was full of pure devil qi, appeared in his hand. Then all the strength of his body gathered on the saber, and even his eyes were covered with dark devil qi. With a buzz, the whole space seemed to be frozen at this moment, and Duan Chun's boundless sword gang became extremely slow. Suddenly, a seemingly invisible saber light flashed away like a flash of the night flower, and this space was actually split into 2 like a broken mirror. All the cyan sword gang disappeared in an instant. Duan Chun's face immediately turned pale with fright, because he could feel that there was an invisible saber light that ignored his physical defense and directly cut into his consciousness. The invisible blade tore his primordial spirit, and the feeling was more painful than being tortured. Duan Chun couldn't help but wail. Duan Chun hurriedly took out a black pill from his mustard seed bag and swallowed it. It was a kind of pill that could nourish the primordial spirit. After swallowing the pill, Duan Chun finally felt much better. Immediately, he looked at Lung Shiqi with a strong sense of fear in his eyes. Lung Shiqi had mastered such a powerful and strange saber technique. When he was in pain just now, if Lung Shiqi continued to attack, it could even threaten his life. Just as Duan Chun was shocked, the whole hall was suddenly divided neatly from the middle into 2 halves and collapsed on both sides. Duan Chun's pupils shrank again. Lung Shiqi didn't attack again because the previous saber attack directly took away 80% of his strength. While Duan Chun was in a daze, he also quietly swallowed a few pills to recover his spiritual power. He secretly sighed that this saber technique consumed too much of his spiritual power. Not only did it empty his spiritual power, but it also consumed most of his mental power, which gave him a headache. However, the power of this saber attack was obvious. This saber attack was created by Lung Shiqi, by combining the ephemeral epiphyllum and the void-slaying saber. It was a spiritual technique that cut the physical body and the primordial spirit. Ephemeral epiphyllum. Chapter 404. Boom. The collapse of the hall immediately attracted a large number of Dark Thunder guards. They gathered quickly, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. However, when they arrived, they didn't find any enemies. What surprised them was that the collapsed hall looked like it had been cut open from the middle by a knife. But they did not feel any knife intent just now. What on earth happened here? Back off! Duan Chun suddenly shouted. Although the crowd did not know why, they still obeyed and retreated. Duan Chun re-examined Lung Shiqi again. The more he looked at him, the more he found that he could not see through Lung Shiqi. His cultivation had soared at such a young age, but he still had such terrifying strength. No wonder he dared to come to him so unyieldingly. It turned out that his greatest reliance was his strength. If Lung Shiqi broke through to the Gang Spirit realm one day, would Duan Chun be able to defeat him? At this time, a question emerged in Duan Chun's mind. Who on earth was he? Duan Chun also began to doubt Lung Shiqi's identity. Putting everything else aside, just that strange saber move just now was definitely not something that a rogue cultivator could teach. After dismissing the crowd, Duan Chun said calmly, "It turns out that your strength is so strong. The power of this knife is no less than that of the Gang Spirit realm. You are really a young hero. But you have violated the taboo of the Dark Thunder Guards by attacking me. I can let this matter go, and I can also let bygones be bygones. In the future, You and I will mind our own business. How about that? Duan Chun's words were tantamount to making a concession. But Leng Shiqi still shook his head. As I said, I'm still very interested in the position of the great supervisor. Why don't you let me have a seat? Duan Chun's face became gloomy again. He said in a low voice, Lu Xingji, you have to know that even Lord Yu can't protect you for the crimes you have committed. And, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Even if I kill you here today, I'm still the great supervisor of North County. Leng Shiqi ignored him after hearing this. Instead, he put away the Devil Advent Warblade and muttered softly, Judging by the time, it should be about time. When Leng Shiqi said such a strange sentence, Duan Chun was a little stunned. Just as he was puzzled, a dark thunder guard hurried over, running and shouting, Sir Li is here. Why are you panicking? Lord Li? Which Lord Li? The man glanced at Leng Shiqi, then walked to Duan Chun's side and whispered, It's Lord Yu's right-hand man, Lord Li Hong. Li Hong was here. Duan Chun was shocked. Li Hong was Yu Ruifeng's favorite man, and Yu Ruifeng's adopted son. He also had the cultivation of Gang Spirit Realm. According to rumors, Yu Ruifeng even intended to pass the position of patrol inspector to Li Hong. Therefore, Li Hong was not someone Duan Chun could afford to offend. But why would he suddenly come here? Duan Chun looked at Leng Shiqi suspiciously and decided to welcome Li Hong. Unexpectedly, Li Hong had already come in. Leng Shiqi and Duan Chun turned their heads at the same time. Li Hong's figure was relatively mediocre, but he was a capable and experienced man. He seemed to be in his 30s or 40s. As soon as Li Hong came in, he saw the collapsed hall and couldn't help but show a surprised look. His eyes moved back and forth between the two, and a strange light flashed in his eyes, but he didn't ask anything. He cupped his hands and said, Sir Duan and Sir Lu are both here. It saves me a lot of trouble. Duan Chun frowned when he heard that. Li Hong actually addressed them as Lord. Although this was a polite form of address, Leng Shiqi, a supervisor, didn't deserve to be addressed this way in front of Li Hong, right? Vaguely, Duan Chun felt that things were not so simple. Then Li Hong took out a black gold scroll and slowly unfolded it. On the back of the scroll, there was a word dark printed on it. Duan Chun was surprised when he saw the black gold scroll. And then he bowed and stood up. This was a transfer order that only the supervisor could use, and it was only used when something big happened. Li Hong cleared his throat and said, Supervisor Lu Xingji of Lanqi City has made many outstanding achievements. He is now the supervisor of North County under the Dark Thunder Guards of West Wilderness Prefecture. The former supervisor Duan Chun will be transferred to South County. As soon as Li Hong finished speaking, Duan Chun suddenly turned to look at Leng Shiqi. His eyes were full of surprise, puzzlement, doubt and deep fear. He would never have guessed that Yu Ruifeng would let Leng Shiqi become the supervisor of the North County. The supervisor supervised the entire North County, covering dozens of cities. He had always been guarded by masters of Gang Spirit Realm. Now he let Leng Shiqi, a Gang Spirit Realm master, take over? How could he sit still? However, Duan Chun suddenly remembered that Leng Shiqi became the supervisor when he was in Spiritual Pulse Realm. Not only did he stabilize his position quickly, but he also made huge profits from it. At this moment, he finally understood why Leng Shiqi was so tough and confident. He said again and again that he wanted to be the supervisor. It turned out that he had long known that Yu Ruifeng would appoint him as the supervisor of North County. For Duan Chun, although he was transferred, North County was the foundation of his many years of operation. Even though South County was richer than North County, it was equivalent to creating a lot of trouble for Duan Chun. However, no matter how unwilling he was in his heart, he did not dare to disobey Yu Ruifeng. Duan Chun's eyes flickered, and he asked Li Hong tentatively, Lord Li, I have no objection to the transfer of South County. It's just that I'm used to using some people. Can I take them to South County? Li Hong was a little embarrassed. Then he looked at Leng Shiqi and said, Lord Lu, you can decide. Leng Shiqi did not hesitate and said, You can take them away, but you can't take anything. Duan Chun laughed in his heart when he heard this. He laughed at Leng Shiqi for being short-sighted. He only knew about resources, but did not know the value of talents. Then he snorted coldly with an expressionless face, turned around and left. He thought, I'll transfer all the elites of North County. Let's see how you'll monitor North County. In fact, Lung Shiqi wanted Duan Chun to take away as many people as possible. This way he could arrange more blood-clothing pavilion assassins. After that, the few of them began to hand over their authority. At the same time, Lu Ziming was anxiously pacing around his room in Deer Marshall City. Ever since his Lord Yu Zimo returned, he had been avoiding people. There were many things that could not be decided. The other 3 Dark Lightning emissaries had also disappeared. He had sent people to Misty Chi City to investigate, but they did not find anything. All of this was so strange that it was worth thinking about. After hesitating for a while, Lu Ziming resolutely went to the place where the information was transmitted. He wanted to report all his suspicions to the great supervisor, Duan Chun. Although he was acting on his own initiative and overstepping his authority, he had no other choice. However, when he arrived at the sound transmission array, an order came out from it. It was an order that shocked him to the core. Lu Ziming collapsed to the ground. He knew that they were finished. Chapter 405. In Hanzhou City's Dark Thunder Manor, Duan Chun went to the backyard to make preparations, while the Dark Thunder Guards who were peeking nearby were stunned. Their immediate superior was changed just like that? To them, it was like the sky had changed. On the other hand, Lung Shiqi smiled and chatted with Li Hong for a while. Li Hong was quite attentive towards Lung Shiqi. Every time he heard Yu Ruifeng mention Lung Shiqi, be it his expression or tone, he would be full of praise. But Li Hong had never felt jealous. He understood Yu Ruifeng very well. Someone who could make his adoptive father praise him must have some outstanding points. Seeing it today, it was indeed so. Although Li Hong did not see the battle between Lung Shiqi and Duan Chun, it was clear that the two of them had destroyed the discussion hall, while Lung Shiqi, who was at the Spirit Aperture Realm, was not injured at all. This was the embodiment of strength. But because the entire hall had collapsed, the two of them did not even have a place to sit. After exchanging some pleasantries, Li Hong took his leave and went back to report. Lung Shiqi stood in the middle of the ruins and shouted, "Men!" Several Dark Thunder Guards nearby immediately trotted over. They lowered their posture and bowed one by one, saying, "Sir, please give us your orders. Tidy up this place and find a room for me to rest." "Yes, Lord, please follow me." A moment later, Lung Shiqi was brought into a luxurious room. This was the room that Duan Chun used to entertain important guests. Lung Shiqi closed the door and released goo worms nearby before recovering his spirit energy. At the same time, he smiled inwardly. Today's events were all part of his plan. On the day he came out of seclusion, he had asked Qiuqing to send a message to Yu Ruifeng, saying that he had come out of seclusion and could directly send the transfer order to Hanzhou City. Lung Shiqi also knew that the person who came to announce the transfer order was Li Hong. From the western desolated city to Hanzhou City, it would take 3 to 4 days at normal speed. On the other hand, Lung Shiqi made a trip to Marshall Deer City to settle Yu Zimo's matter before returning to Hanzhou City. Judging from the time, he would arrive at Hanzhou City around the same time as Li Hong. To be on the safe side, Lung Shiqi even used his fate skill to check Li Hong's approximate location before entering Dark Thunder Manor to meet Duan Chun. With all these arrangements, Lung Shiqi finally stepped through the gates of Dark Thunder Manor. In addition, there were many reasons why he had a conflict with Duan Chun. Firstly, he wanted Duan Chun to be wary of his strength and even more wary of his potential. After all, Duan Chun did have something on Lung Shiqi. If he really exposed it, even if Yu Ruifeng favored him, he would not be able to avoid punishment. Therefore, he wanted to use this method to make Duan Chun worry, so that he would not dare to expose the matter easily. For Lung Shiqi, the more time passed, the higher his status and strength would be, and the less effective Duan Chun's hold on him would be. Over time, Duan Chun would not be a threat to him. Secondly, Lung Shiqi also wanted to use Duan Chun to test his real strength. He had been in seclusion for 3 months, settling down for a long time, and deducing and integrating many spiritual skills through his spiritual force. Originally, he wanted to try his saber on Yu Zimo, But before he could use his full strength, Yuzimo died. Therefore, Leng Shiqi turned his attention to Duan Chun. Duan Chun's cultivation was at the 3rd level of Gang Spirit Realm, which was not high among the great supervisors. The reason why he could be the great supervisor was his ability. After all, Dark Thunder Guards was not a military organization, but more inclined to investigation and intelligence. After a fight, Leng Shiqi generally knew that his limit was at the level of Gang Spirit Realm. With the cultivation of the 5th level of Spirit Aperture Realm, his strength was comparable to that of Gang Spirit Realm. As for the 3rd reason why he wanted to fight with Duan Chun, it was to irritate Duan Chun. Now Duan Chun had made up his mind to take away all the elites in Dark Thunder Mansion, leaving Leng Shiqi as a commander without an army. However, he did not know that this was exactly what Leng Shiqi wanted to see. If Duan Chun did not take people away, how could he transfer people from Blood-Clothed Pavilion? Therefore, he could kill 3 birds with 1 stone by fighting with Duan Chun. The news that Leng Shiqi was promoted to the Great Supervisor of North County was immediately transmitted to all the Dark Thunder Mansions in North County through the sound transmission formation. Anyone who got the news was shocked. Of course, for different people, the reaction was different. For example, Lu Ziming knew that he was finished. Yuzimo had moved a lot of resources from Leng Shiqi in the past few months, which could be said to have offended Leng Shiqi. But who would have thought that Leng Shiqi would become the great supervisor of North County in the blink of an eye? As the saying goes, those with a higher rank can crush people to death. There was no need to think too much. Soon their dear Marshall City's Dark Thunder Manor would definitely face a great purge. The few people in Miss Chi City did not have much of a reaction when they received the news, because they already knew about it when Chiu Cheng sent the news. However, they were also looking forward to it because Leng Shiqi's promotion meant that the position of the supervisor of Miss Chi City would be vacant. Perhaps it would fall on their heads. In North County, there were a total of 6 Dark Thunder Mansions. Other than Hanzhou City, there were a total of 5 supervisors scattered around. Other than Miss Chi City and Dear Marshall City, the other 3 supervisors were shocked when they received the news. They had obviously heard of the name Lu Xingji, which was why they found it hard to believe. In fact, it had only been half a year since Leng Shiqi entered the Dark Thunder Guards. In half a year, he had directly become the great supervisor. Not to mention that no one would be able to achieve this kind of promotion speed in the future. It was definitely unprecedented. The 3 of them tried their best to gather information about Leng Shiqi, and found out that Leng Shiqi seemed to have fought with Duan Chun and destroyed the meeting hall. In the end, the 2 of them seemed to be evenly matched. A Spirit Aperture Realm Cultivator and a Spirit Astral Realm Cultivator were evenly matched. They also began to wonder about Leng Shiqi's background and strength. In addition, Leng Shiqi's position as the Great Supervisor was personally conferred by Yu Ruifeng, which meant that Leng Shiqi was highly regarded by Yu Ruifeng. The 3 of them did not dare to have any other thoughts and planned to go to Hanzhou City to meet the new Great Supervisor. At the same time, Leng Shiqi also sent a message to Chiu Cheng and Yuzimo, asking them to come to Hanzhou City. In Miss Chi City's Dark Thunder Mansion, Qin Jianchen, Guan Feihong, Chiu Cheng and Xiao Qian arranged everything and set off together. Only Qin Jianchen and Guan Feihong knew that they might not have the chance to come to Miss Chi City in the future. In Dear Marshall City's Dark Thunder Mansion, Yuzimo, who had been recuperating for a few days, also came out and found Lu Ziming immediately. When he learned that Leng Shiqi had been promoted to the Great Supervisor, he pretended to be shocked, and then rushed to Hanzhou City with Lu Ziming with a serious expression. Chapter 406. 3 days later, a brand new meeting hall was built in Hanzhou City's Dark Thunder Manor. At this moment, Leng Shiqi was sitting high up, and there were 4 people sitting in front of him. Apart from Yuzimo, the other 3 were Pure Loyalty City's supervisor, Shen Yuenda, who was a rather old man. There was also Huaijiang City's supervisor, Ruan Hongguang, who was a man dressed in martial attire. There was also Longyi City's supervisor, Jin Yuan, who was a young man with a smile. As for the Lanqi City's supervisor position, there was no one here. After the few of them exchanged greetings for a while, the atmosphere in the entire assembly hall became more and more solemn. Shin Yuenda and the other two all looked at Yuzimo. They had also inquired about what Yuzimo had done some time ago. They all sneered in their hearts, thinking that Yuzimo really didn't know what was good for him. Today Lung Shiqi called them over, not only to meet and explain the new rules, but also to use Yuzimo to establish his power. Sure enough, Lung Shiqi quickly made things difficult for Yuzimo. He said coldly, "Yuzimo, I can let bygones be bygones for what you have done in the past, but you should show some sincerity." Yuzimo's face suddenly sank, and he stammered, "Sir, previously in Dear Marshall City, this humble one has already handed over all the resources in the treasury. However, this humble one is willing to contribute all the resources collected in the future to Sir, and swear to be loyal to Sir forever." Not enough. Lung Shiqi said these two words with an expressionless face. Yuzimo took a deep breath, and a dagger suddenly appeared in his hand, and he ruthlessly stabbed it into his shoulder. He didn't use any spiritual energy to block it, nor did he suppress the wound, and blood flowed out freely. The bright red color immediately made the other three feel that it was very dazzling, and at the same time, they all felt a chill run down their backs. However, Lung Shiqi still said, "Not enough." Yuzimo raised his hand, and his eyes stared straight at Lung Shiqi, and he said in a deep voice, "Could it be that this humble one has to commit suicide here for Sir to be satisfied? That sounds like a good idea." Yuzimo couldn't bear it any longer, and revealed a look of anger. The three inspectors beside him did not even dare to breathe loudly. It was obvious that Lung Shiqi was using Yuzimo to establish his authority. Lung Shiqi's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He raised one hand to the sky, and a dazzling golden light condensed into a small sun. As the blazing sun appeared in the sky, waves of sharp golden energy assaulted their faces, causing them to activate their protective spiritual armors one after another. Then the golden sun suddenly changed, and a layer of green flames ignited on it. Those were not ordinary flames but poisonous flames. After the 6-yang poisonous fire palm merged with the glorious sun mysterious sun palm, it became the glorious sun poisonous sun palm. Lung Shiqi shot out a palm, and the poisonous flame blazing sun rushed towards Yuzimo. Yuzimo knew something was wrong the moment Lung Shiqi made his move. He turned around and started to run, but how could he run? In the blink of an eye, Yuzimo's body was completely submerged by the poisonous flame blazing sun, and a thunderous roar resounded in the meeting hall. A strong poisonous flame raged, and a tyrannical power erupted. A part of the meeting hall that had just been built collapsed in an instant. When all the power dissipated, where was Yuzimo's figure? He had been directly turned into ashes by this move. Shin Yuenda, Ruan Hongguang, and Jin Yuan all had their mouths wide open, and their eyes were filled with horror. No matter what, Yuzimo's cultivation was at the spirit aperture realm, and he had been killed by Lung Shiqi in a single move. Moreover, even if Yuzimo had offended Lung Shiqi, he was still an inspector. How could Lung Shiqi dare to kill an inspector in public? Originally, they had only thought that Lung Shiqi would use Yuzimo to beat them up, and Yuzimo would at most be reprimanded and given some benefits. However, they had never thought that Lung Shiqi would kill Yuzimo in front of them. At this moment, they had experienced Lung Shiqi's terrifying strength and iron fist. They also understood that today, Lung Shiqi did not want to use Yuzimo to beat them up, but to use Yuzimo's blood as an example to others. Shin Yuenda was the first to react. He bowed deeply and said, "Your Excellency's strength is unprecedented. This humble one admires you." The other two immediately complimented him. Lung Shiqi clapped his hands and revealed a harmless smile. He casually motioned for everyone to sit down, as if the one who had just killed someone was not him at all. After the four of them sat down, Lung Shiqi said with a smile, "The three of you are all senior inspectors of the North County. I am the newly appointed inspector, and I still need your support. Your Excellency is too polite. We will definitely follow your lead." "Yes, Your Excellency, please feel free to instruct this humble one in the future. It is this humble one's honor to be able to serve Your Excellency." The three of them nodded like they were pounding garlic and spoke eagerly. "Since all of you have said so, this envoy really does have a troublesome matter." Lung Shiqi frowned and said, "You should also know that after the previous great inspector Duan Chun left, He took away most of the elites of Dark Thunder Manor. I am currently short of manpower here. Shen Yuanda immediately said, Your Excellency, please rest assured. When this humble one returns, I will personally select 30 elite Dark Thunder Guards and a Dark Thunder Envoy for Your Excellency. This number was equivalent to 1/3 of his subordinates, and he said it so easily. Of course, Yuan Hongguang and Jin Yuan were not willing to fall behind. They also expressed that they would send a large number of elites over. Leng Shiqi nodded in satisfaction and said, You can rest assured that after a while, this envoy will also recruit some people for you. I will not let you suffer a loss. Shen Yuanda and the other two looked at each other. At this moment, they understood that Leng Shiqi did not really want to borrow their people. Instead, he wanted to place Leng Shiqi's own people in their subordinates. However, even if they knew, they did not dare to have any intention of disobeying. After all, Yuzimo's bloodstains were still in front of them. They did not want to follow in Yuzimo's footsteps. Since Leng Shiqi's goal was achieved, they politely said a few words and sent the 3 people away. After the 3 people left, a figure suddenly appeared in the hall. It was Thousand Face. The Yuzimo that Leng Shiqi killed was naturally Thousand Face in disguise. Before the solar poisonous Yang Palm fell, he used the Hand of Earth to lure Thousand Face into the ground. However, under the cover of the dazzling light of the solar poisonous Yang Palm, Shen Yuanda and the other two did not notice. Leng Shiqi asked Thousand Face to call Qin Jianshan and the others over and arrange a series of things. Chapter 407. In the following period of time, the Dark Thunder Guards in the North region underwent a huge change in personnel. Firstly, all the Dark Thunder envoys in the Mist Qi City's Dark Thunder Manor were transferred to Hanzhou City. These people were used to Leng Shiqi, so they were all transferred over. As for the Mist Qi City, he directly transferred a silver-striped blood-clothed assassin and 4 black-striped blood-clothed assassins from the Bloodcloth Pavilion to oversee the city. From then on, the Mist Qi City's Dark Thunder Manor had completely become a small branch of the Bloodcloth Pavilion. The Deer Marshal City's Dark Thunder Manor was about the same. The high-level supervisors and Dark Thunder envoys were all replaced by assassins from the Bloodcloth Pavilion. As for the Dark Thunder Guards, a portion of them were transferred to Hanzhou City. At the same time, Leng Shiqi also arranged for dozens of black-clothed assassins to enter Deer Marshal City. As for the remaining 3 Dark Thunder Manors, just as Leng Shiqi had previously instructed, Leng Shiqi had arranged for some black-clothed assassins and 1 black-striped blood-clothed assassin to monitor Shen Yuanda, and the other 2 at all times. Very quickly, the entire North region was in the hands of Leng Shiqi. With his Spirit Aperture Realm cultivation, no one dared to question or provoke him when he took the position of the head supervisor. This was because there were only 2 groups of people who dared to provoke him. One of them was the seniors in Hanzhou City's Dark Thunder Manor, but almost all of them were taken away by Duan Chun. The remaining few were quite old and had no other advantages other than experience, so they naturally couldn't cause any trouble. The other group was Shen Yuanda, and the other 2. However, these 3 people were directly frightened by Leng Shiqi. Therefore, he easily stabilized his position, and it was even easier than when he took the position of head supervisor. Moreover, he also instructed Deer Marshal City and the surrounding cities to openly smuggle goods, and the rules were the same as Mist Qi cities. As a result, the resources Leng Shiqi could obtain every month instantly doubled. Moreover, as time passed, this city would definitely attract more and more merchants, and his harvest would only increase. What Leng Shiqi needed to do next was to integrate the assassins he arranged into the Dark Thunder Guards as soon as possible. At the very least, the Dark Thunder Hall could operate normally. Therefore, Leng Shiqi was also very busy these days. He had never been good at these things, but now that he was appointed as the great supervisor, he couldn't be as relaxed as before. At the very least, he would have to wait for his subordinates to completely take over a few Dark Thunder Manors before he could do so. That night, after Leng Shiqi finished reviewing all the missions and information, he closed his eyes and took a nap. He had never liked to do such things, but he was exhausted these past few days. It was even more tiring than non-stop cultivation. However, at this moment, Lung Shiqi, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly pointed his finger. In an instant, the blood qi and the power of lightning transformed into a blood-red thunderbolt that shot out towards an empty space in the room. However, the blood-red bolt of lightning suddenly turned invisible and disappeared halfway through its flight. At the same time, a figure walked out of the void. It was Wuxia. Wuxia appeared and stared at Lung Shiqi with a burning gaze. He secretly praised. "Tisk tsk, my good disciple. Is this how you welcome your master?" Lung Shiqi didn't expect Wuxia to suddenly appear here. Just now, he inadvertently sensed that there was a weak aura hidden nearby, so he took action to test it out. Disciple greets master. Lung Shiqi stood up and cupped his fist. Wuxia raised his hand and formed an isolation restriction. He praised. "I've heard about what you did in the Dark Thunder Guards. I didn't expect you to be promoted to the Great Supervisor in just half a year. Your cultivation has also improved by leaps and bounds. As expected, a great teacher produces a great disciple." Lung Shiqi heard this and the corner of his eyes twitched. However, he still said, "It's all because of Master's good teaching." "Hee, that's enough. I was just saying it casually. Your cultivation has improved so quickly. It seems that you have had a lot of opportunities. You are really lucky." Hearing this, Lung Shiqi didn't think so. Instead, he felt that he was too good at causing trouble. No matter where he went, he would inexplicably encounter great danger. Just like this time in Zhulu country, if he didn't have several trump cards, he would have died long ago. How could he have the glory he had today? Therefore, opportunities and dangers coexisted. Some people could turn dangers into opportunities, while others would be buried even if they were given a great opportunity. However, Lung Shiqi didn't know why Wuxia suddenly appeared here. He asked, "Master, why did you come all the way from Muqin County to the West Desolate Province?" "Sai, it's all because of you." Wuxia sighed deeply and said, "After you became the Great Supervisor, almost half of the assassins in the West Desolate Province were transferred away by you. The West Desolate Province is remote, and there aren't many assassins there. With so many people transferred away, the West Desolate Province is almost unable to operate. I brought a group of assassins from the main pavilion to replenish the number of people in the West Desolate Province, so I came to see you." Hearing this answer, Lung Shiqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When he went to the West Desolate Province to use the silver-striped blood kill order to transfer people, the main pavilion here agreed very quickly, so Lung Shiqi didn't care too much. It turned out that the other party's heart was bleeding. Wuxia continued. "Of course, Master also has a few things to tell you. First of all, with your cultivation, you could have been promoted to a silver-striped blood-clothed assassin, but you haven't done a mission for a long time, so the blood drops are definitely not enough. The sect took into account your uniqueness, and let many of our people infiltrate the Dark Thunder Guards, which is not a small contribution, so the sect decided to directly promote you to a silver-striped blood-clothed assassin." Lung Shiqi was stunned for a moment. He actually almost forgot about this. The main thing was that he hadn't done an assassin mission for too long, so he almost forgot that it was his job. Then Wuxia took out a bag and handed it over. Lung Shiqi opened it and saw his new clothes, identity token, and 2 jade slips. Wuxia explained, "You are a newly promoted silver-striped blood-clothed assassin, so according to the rules, you can obtain a level 5 spirit technique for free. It's not convenient for you to go to the main pavilion to choose, so I directly chose one for you. It's more suitable for the 7 Fiend Blood Kill Art. As for the other jade slip, it's the complete 7 Fiend Blood Kill Art. The complete 7 Fiend Blood Kill Art, and the spirit technique that was compatible with it. The 7 Fiend Blood Kill Art that Lung Shiqi cultivated before was given to him by Senior Sister Sulwan. And it was only the first part. After he broke through to the Spirit Aperture Realm, there was no other cultivation method, so of course he was happy to accept it. At this time, Lung Shiqi suddenly asked, "Master, I want to ask you about someone." Wuxia laughed sinisterly and said, "Kid, even if you don't say it, I know who it is. It's Delta Origi." Chapter 408. As for Delta Origi, Lung Shiqi really wanted to know her whereabouts. Since the Blood Cloak Pavilion's Blood Seed plan had been launched, Delta Orgi must have been arranged to join a big force. He was both concerned and curious. However, Wuxiang fell silent. Lung Shiqi's heart suddenly tightened. Could it be that something had happened to Delta Orgi? Master, what happened to Delta Orgi? He asked anxiously. She went to the blood prison. Wuxiang's voice was a little low. Blood prison? Lung Shiqi had never heard of this place, but just by hearing the name, he knew it was not a good place. Wuxiang explained, there are two kinds of people in the blood prison. One is the abandoned disciples of the Blood Cloak Pavilion. These people basically violated the rules of the sect and were sent to the blood prison. If there are no accidents, they will be trapped there for the rest of their lives. As for the other kind, it has something to do with you and Gu-san. Lung Shiqi could not help but be a little surprised when he heard this. Before the establishment of the Blood Fog Island, the biggest difficulty the sect encountered was the lack of a large number of talents. As you know, the Blood Cloak Pavilion is an assassin force. Whether it is the system of training assassins or the strength of their assassins, they are the best in the world. However, there are almost no people in the Blood Cloak Pavilion who study formations, alchemy, weapon refining, and the like. In order to establish the Blood Fog Island, a large number of formation masters, beast tamers, puppet masters, and so on are needed. The Blood Cloak Pavilion does not have any of these people. Therefore, the sect decided to use the method of escaping, secretly keeping those who needed to be killed in the mission, and sending them to the Blood Fog Island to maintain the normal operation of the Blood Fog Island. After you came out of the Blood Fog Island, these people were supposed to be dealt with, but they were indeed very capable. The sect also felt that it was a pity to kill them directly, so they were all imprisoned in the blood prison. The more he listened, the more Lung Shiqi frowned. From what Wuxiang said, the people in the blood prison could be said to be all vicious outlaws. Why did Delta Orgi go to the blood prison? Could it be that she had made a huge mistake? At this time Wuxiang said, Delta Orgi wanted to go in. What? Lung Shiqi was suddenly surprised. His mind raced, but he couldn't figure out why Delta Orgi would take the initiative to enter the blood prison. Wuxiang looked at Lung Shiqi with a strange look. Speaking of which, this has something to do with you. Because the Delta Orgi felt that their strength was far inferior to yours and wanted to catch up to you or even surpass you. They chose to enter the blood prison. Master will not hide it from you. The living environment in the blood prison is far worse than you can imagine. Compared to the blood prison, the Blood Mist Island you're on is simply an immortal palace. However, you don't have to worry. The sect naturally won't let anything happen to Delta Orgi. There are also people secretly protecting her in the blood prison. And from what I know, Delta Orgi seems to have already broken through to the Spirit Aperture realm. It seems that her decision to go to the blood prison was the correct one. Hearing that Delta Orgi had also broken through to the Spirit Aperture realm, Lung Shiqi was inwardly shocked. He remembered that Delta Orgi had only broken through to the Spirit Aperture realm for less than a year, but she had actually directly crossed an entire realm. Delta Orgi's cultivation talent could be said to be terrifying. She had also received the teachings of the Sky Origin Realm expert, Bone Demon, and had also trained in the blood prison, so it was natural for her to have such a cultivation. Seeing that Lung Shiqi seemed to understand, Wuxiang changed the topic. You've been promoted very quickly in the Western Desolate Province, but from now on, don't be greedy and advance rashly. You need to know how to restrain yourself. Although the Western Desolate Province is under Yu Ruifeng's jurisdiction, there are still others watching you. If you promote too quickly and too loudly, it will inevitably attract the attention of others. Your identity can be said to be perfect, but Master's identity still has loopholes. If someone finds out, all our previous efforts will be wasted. Lung Shiqi nodded. He had originally planned to stabilize for a period of time. Since Wuxiang had nothing else to tell him, he might as well quietly leave. Lung Shiqi began to study the complete 7 Fiend Blood Art, as well as the new Rank 5 Spiritual Skill 7 Fiend Blood Art. First, he used the system to learn the 7 Fiend Blood Art. The biggest characteristic of the 7 Fiend Blood Art was that it could mobilize one's own blood chi and killing intent. Blood Carnage was a spiritual skill that used blood chi. Now that he was at the spirit aperture realm, he could cultivate a deeper level of killing intent. The spiritual skill that controlled killing intent was called Imperial Fiend Art. This spiritual skill did not have a specific rank, because the power of the Imperial Fiend Art was directly related to the density of the user's killing intent. After Lung Shiqi finished cultivating the Imperial Fiend Art, he formed a seal with both hands. He planned to stimulate the invisible killing intent in his body to see how high his killing intent was. Lung Shiqi's seal did not move. Immediately, a trace of blood qi emerged from his body. Immediately after, his body seemed to have opened a floodgate as waves of killing intent appeared crazily. Not long after, the entire room was filled with a dense killing intent. One could even faintly hear the wailing of ghosts. Even Lung Shiqi's eyes were faintly red as a tyrannical emotion rose up. At this moment, Lung Shiqi's spiritual illusion world shook slightly. A ripple filled with a strange rhythm surged out and suppressed the emotions. He looked to his left and right, and was a little surprised at how thick his murderous aura was. Normally, people who had this much killing intent would have already become madmen who only knew how to kill. The reason why Lung Shiqi did not have any abnormalities was because his willpower was very firm and his mentality was very good. Perhaps it was a habit formed from the Blood Fog Island, but the people he killed were people who deserved to be killed. Therefore, he did not have any worries in his heart. Moreover, his mental strength was very strong and was enough to suppress the killing intent. Next, Lung Shiqi followed the method in the Imperial Fiend Art to first tame the killing intent and completely absorb it for his own use. In this way, he could avoid being affected by the killing intent and also use it to defend against enemies. It was killing two birds with one stone. The spirit seal in Lung Shiqi's hand changed, and the dense baleful aura quickly gathered and slowly circulated around him. As time passed, the killing intent condensed into a layer of dark red light film that attached to Lung Shiqi's body. Gradually, the shape of this layer of light film began to change. After 2 hours, it actually transformed into a thin light armor. This was one of the methods of using killing intent in the Imperial Fiend Art, the Blood Fiend Spirit Armor. Spirit Aperture Realm cultivators were able to use their spirit energy to condense a protective spirit armor around their body. The protective spirit armor was far stronger than the protective spirit energy. Normal spirit pulse realm attacks would find it difficult to break through the protective spirit armor. The defensive power of the Blood Fiend Spirit Armor was far stronger than the protective spirit armor. At the same time, the killing intent released by the armor could affect the opponent's mind. This was a high-level spirit technique that combined both defense and disruption. In addition, the Imperial Fiend Art also had an offensive spirit technique called Heart Calamity. Chapter 409. Evil Heart Retribution was a method that could inject evil qi into the enemy's body. The evil qi would erode the enemy's body and destroy the enemy's consciousness. It could be said that it was an extremely vicious spiritual technique. Lung Shiqi directly used his infinite skill points to upgrade these two spiritual techniques to the Great Perfection realm. The Blood Evil Spirit Armor became more solid and heavy. Unfortunately, he couldn't test the power of the Evil Heart Retribution. After cultivating these two spiritual techniques, Lung Shiqi picked up another Jade Slip. This was the level 5 spiritual technique that Wuxia had chosen for him. The 7 Swords of Bloody Massacre. This sword technique was of the same origin as the 7 Swords of Bloody Massacre. The two complemented each other, but it wasn't recorded in the cultivation technique. This was because the Blood Garment Pavilion had never restricted the cultivation direction of their disciples. The Blood Slaughter 7 Fiend Art itself had the Blood Slaughter Art and the Fiend Resistance Art, which were both auxiliary spirit skills. In this way, the Blood Cloak assassins could choose the path that was most suitable for them based on their talents and preferences. If you used a sword, you could also exchange your blood for the 7 Swords of Bloody Massacre. Lung Shiqi picked up the Jade Slip and used his mental power to explore it. He saw the cultivation technique of the 7 Swords of Bloody Massacre. At the same time, the system gave him a prompt. Without saying anything, he cultivated it to the Great Perfection realm in one step. The 7 Swords of Bloody Massacre had a total of 7 sword moves. Each move was stronger than the previous one. When cultivated to the great perfection realm, the 7 moves could be combined into one move. When the sword was used, it seemed like only one move, but in fact there were 7 sword moves hidden. Not only was the explosive power extremely strong, but it was also impossible to guard against. For Leng Shiqi, with his current cultivation, the previous 17 sword techniques of Mount Song was somewhat useless. Therefore, the Bloody Slaughter 7 deadly swords could be considered as a supplement for him. With Wu Xiang's visit, he gave Leng Shiqi a cultivation method and a spiritual skill, which allowed Leng Shiqi's strength to increase again. When Leng Shiqi finished studying the cultivation techniques and spiritual techniques, the sky was already bright. He pondered for a moment, and sent someone to call Qiu Cheng over. When Qiu Cheng learned that Leng Shiqi was looking for him early in the morning, he knew that there must be something urgent. He hurried to Leng Shiqi's room and bowed. "Greetings, Darren." After Leng Shiqi transferred Qiu Cheng to Hanzhou City, although he was still a Dark Lightning envoy, the authority in his hands was far greater than before. He also knew that all of this was given to him by Leng Shiqi, so he was even more respectful towards Leng Shiqi. "Qiu Cheng, let me ask you," Leng Shiqi asked straightforwardly. "Are there any powerful alchemists in the northern county? At the very least, it has to be the kind that can refine Tier 6 medicinal pills." The reason why Leng Shiqi asked this was because he didn't lack any cultivation methods or spiritual skills, and he was almost done with the fusion of the spiritual skills. Thus he began to shift his focus to improving his cultivation. However, for a spirit cultivator of the spirit aperture realm, increasing his cultivation was becoming more and more difficult. If he only relied on bitter cultivation, he didn't know when he would be able to cultivate to the 9th level of the spirit aperture realm. Although Leng Shiqi had the yin-yang spirit convergence array, this array consumed too many spirit stones. In the 3 months that he was in seclusion, he had already used up 70 to 80% of the spirit stones he obtained from the Gu God sect. Even if his family was rich, it couldn't support him to use the yin-yang spirit convergence array without limit. Thus, Leng Shiqi thought of the most suitable pill for a spirit aperture realm cultivator, the awakening pill. Not only could the awakening pill help a spirit cultivator open their spirit aperture, it could also greatly increase their cultivation. And Leng Shiqi himself had something very precious, and that was the awakening pill's recipe. This recipe was obtained in the illusory spirit secret realm, and he had never used it. Now it was time for it to be used. The awakening pill was a Tier 6 medicinal pill, and the awakening pill's recipe was enough to be ranked as a Tier 8 treasure. The value of the awakening pill and its recipe was the same as the value of eggs and hens. One was a one-time consumable, and the other was something that could be continuously produced. The value was completely incomparable. However, Leng Shiqi didn't know how to refine pills, so he could only recruit an alchemist who could refine the awakening pill. As for the materials, he had prepared most of them. First of all, he had taken a lot of materials to refine the awakening pill when he was in the Gu God sect. Coupled with the inventory of the various Dark Thunder Hall, he didn't have to worry about the materials for a short period of time. Now it could be said that everything was ready, and he only lacked an alchemist. Thus he called Qiu Cheng over to ask. Qiu Cheng's eyes were moving around, and he was carefully searching his memories. People who could refine Tier 6 medicinal pills were enough to be called alchemist masters. Such people were very rare, and after thinking for a while he finally thought of one person. "Sir, there is indeed an alchemist master in the north region called Wenren Gu." Qiu Cheng replied, "However, this person is not from a spirit cultivator sect. He has been wandering around for many years, so I don't know where he is now. I don't even know if he is in the north region. As long as there is someone," Leng Shiqi ordered, "spread out all the information to find Wenren Gu. Once you find him, immediately invite him over." "Yes." Qiu Cheng did not hesitate to turn around and carry out the task. After Qiu Cheng left, Leng Shiqi sent someone to call Guan Feihong. After Guan Feihong walked in, he cupped his hands and took out a piece of paper. Then he stood with his hands behind his back. Leng Shiqi immediately frowned. During this period of time, he had asked Guan Feihong to search for information about the Dark Shadow clan. But the result was a piece of paper? One must know that Guan Feihong was able to mobilize the Blood Cloak Pavilion and the Dark Thunder Guard's information network at the same time. How could he only find out such little information? However, Leng Shiqi did not mean to blame him. He believed that Guan Feihong would not neglect his duties. Since he had upgraded the system, he knew that he had a bloodline called the Dark Shadow Clan. However, he was very unfamiliar with this name, so he asked Guan Feihong to search for information about it. When Leng Shiqi picked up the piece of paper, there was only one line on it. The Dark Shadow Clan seems to be related to the Nether Temple. The Nether Temple. Leng Shiqi murmured these words. At this time, Guan Feihong took out another piece of information, which recorded the information about the Nether Temple. Similarly, this piece of information only had a few sentences. The Nether Temple is a transcendent force that is above the three dynasties. It is one of the Yin and Yang temples. Guan Feihong explained in a timely manner. The Nether Temple is extremely secretive. Until now, no one knows where their sect is. According to the information for thousands of years, the Nether Temple has only appeared a few times on the continent. However, every time they appear, they will display shocking strength. The last time they appeared was more than 10 years ago. At that time, a first-rate force was single-handedly slaughtered by a person from the Nether Temple. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi frowned deeply. Chapter 410. Leng Shiqi just wanted to inquire about his bloodline, but he didn't expect that the Nether Temple would be involved. According to Guan Feihong, a person who could destroy a first-class force by himself must be an expert of the Tianyuan realm. And the Nether Temple was even more powerful than the three dynasties. It could be imagined how terrible this force was. The system did show that Leng Shiqi had the bloodline, but he didn't feel it at all. He also remembered that before he broke through to the Spirit Aperture realm on the Gu God Peak, a mysterious black mark appeared on his forehead, which helped him absorb a lot of power. But since then, Leng Shiqi had checked his body countless times, but he didn't find any trace. Now he knew that the Dark Shadow Clan had an inseparable relationship with the Nether Temple, and he had no way to deal with it for a while. Of course, the real awakening of the bloodline would definitely make his strength improve greatly, but Leng Shiqi didn't want to provoke such a giant like the Nether Temple for no reason. So he had to put the bloodline matter aside for the time being. Well, thank you for your hard work, Leng Shiqi said to Guan Feihong. It's my duty. Guan Feihong changed the topic and said, by the way, Your Excellency, I just got the news this morning that the second-class force, Wind and Thunder Tower, invited you to participate in their monster slaughtering assembly. Wind and Thunder Tower? Monster slaughtering assembly? He had heard of the Wind and Thunder Tower. It was one of the few second-class forces in the North County, famous for the power of wind and thunder. But why would the Wind and Thunder Tower hold a monster slaughtering assembly? This was the West Wilderness County, where there wasn't even a demonic beast. How could there be a monster to slaughter? What Leng Shiqi cared more about was that when he heard the word monster, he immediately thought of Jiuli. It had been half a year since he parted with Jiuli last time. During this time, he hadn't received any message from Jiuli, let alone know where she had gone. But Leng Shiqi knew that Jiuli wouldn't stay put. Last time in the Donglin County, Jiuli sneaked into the Extreme Fire Manor and took most of their resources. Later, she was chased by two gang Spirit Realm disciples, which was miserable. This time, could he have offended the Wind Thunder Tower again? This was not Leng Shiqi's imagination running wild. Rather, if there was a powerful demonic beast in the Western Desolate Province, it could only be 9 Leave. Of course, Leng Shiqi also hoped that he was just imagining things. Guan Feihong saw that Leng Shiqi didn't say anything, so he asked, Darren, this subordinate has rejected them. No. Leng Shiqi said. Tell me what happened first. It's like this. Guan Feihong answered. Some time ago, the Wind Thunder Tower captured a demonic beast. It was said that this beast had committed heinous crimes in the East County and was chased all the way to the North County. In the end, it fell into the hands of the Wind Thunder Tower. Thus, the Wind and Thunder Tower wanted to hold a demonic extermination assembly to kill this demonic beast in front of everyone to prove the might of the heavens. Leng Shiqi sneered. What did he mean by proving the might of the heavens? He just wanted to use this opportunity to improve his reputation. These spiritual cultivation sects cared about these things most. However, after listening to Guan Feihong's words, Leng Shiqi felt that the demonic beast was more likely to be Nine Leave. He had to go and take a look. He said, "Prepare some gifts and follow me to the Wind Thunder Tower." The Wind Thunder Tower was located in the east of the North County, which was very close to the East County. On this day, Leng Shiqi took Guan Feihong to the Wind Thunder Tower. Both of them were wearing the clothes of the Dark Thunder Guard, so they were soon recognized by the doorman at the door. Guan Feihong handed over the name card. The doorman immediately stared at them and looked up at Leng Shiqi. Then he shouted, "The supervisor of the North County of the Dark Thunder Guard, Darren Liu, is here." Soon, a gray-haired old man in a purple cloak came out with a warm smile. This man was the head of the Wind Thunder Tower, Hong Guangji. He was at the late stage of the Spirit Gang realm. Even so, Hong Guangji had to be polite to Leng Shiqi, who was at the middle stage of the Spirit Aperture realm. That was because of Leng Shiqi's identity. Although the Discipline Department was said to be a deterrent to the Spirit Cultivator sects, the Discipline Department was equivalent to a tiger blocking the road. If you couldn't beat it, you could go around it. The Dark Thunder Guard was equivalent to a poisonous snake hiding in the dark, staring at you all the time. Once you showed the slightest flaw, you would die without a burial place. Therefore, for these Spirit Cultivator sects, sometimes the Dark Thunder Guard was more threatening than the Discipline Department. "Darren Liu is here. It's an honor, an honor." Hong Guangji laughed. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person. Leng Shiqi also laughed and said, "Head Hong, it's an honor to meet you." "Ha ha ha, Darren Liu, please come in. Please." Hong Guangji led Leng Shiqi and Guan Feihong into the Wind Thunder Tower. The buildings in the Wind Thunder Tower were mainly small pavilions, each of which was very unique. At this time, there were many people talking to each other in the pavilions. These were all people who came to participate in the demon slaughtering assembly. When they saw Leng Shiqi coming, they all looked at him. The topic of these people's conversation naturally turned to Leng Shiqi, the new supervisor of the North County. Of course, there were good and bad comments. Some envied him for reaching such a high position at such a young age, and some didn't think he could do well in this position. Leng Shiqi turned a deaf ear to those people's discussion. What he cared about most was who was going to be slaughtered in this so-called demon slaughtering assembly. He lowered his voice and asked, "Head Hong, to tell you the truth, I have been very curious about what this demon beast looks like. You also know that many people in the West Wilderness Prefecture have never seen a demon beast in their lives. Can you let me see it first?" This, Hong Guangji revealed a hesitant expression. Logically speaking, he naturally hoped to wait until everyone was here before revealing the true appearance of the demon beast. However, Leng Shiqi's status was not low. If he did not even agree to such a small request, it would be a bit disrespectful. "Of course, there's no problem. I'll bring Lord Liu over to take a look." Just as they were about to move, the doorman's shout came again. "The Grand Commissioner of the North County's Discipline Division, Lord Wang, has arrived. The people from the Discipline Division are here too?" Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was a little puzzled. The relationship between the Discipline Division and the Spirit Cultivator sect had never been good. In the hearts of the Spirit Cultivators, the Discipline Division was the lackey of the Imperial Court, and was not liked. Moreover, the Discipline Division had to maintain a certain distance from the Spirit Cultivator sect. If they got close, it would not be good for either side. Not only was Leng Shiqi puzzled, even Hong Guangji was puzzled, and revealed a surprised expression. Because he did not invite the Discipline Division at all. Now that the people from the Discipline Division had come uninvited, the Grand Commissioner had personally come. That was in existence on the same level as the Dark Thunder Guard's supervisor. Hong Guangji's heart could not help but beat faster. Chapter 411. Leng Shiqi and Hong Guangji were both surprised by the sudden arrival of people from the Discipline Commission. However, since they were already here and their status wasn't low, Hong Guangji had no reason to not receive them. Hong Guangji looked at Leng Shiqi with a slightly troubled expression. "Lord Liu," Leng Shiqi cupped his hands, "the head commissioner of the Discipline Commission has arrived." Sect Master Hong, please help yourself. Lord Lu, please forgive us. Hong Guangji called over a Spirit Aperture Realm elder. Elder Qing, accompany Lord Lu. Then Hong Guangji went to receive the head commissioner of the Discipline Commission. Elder Qing said, Lord Lu, this way please. Not long after, Leng Shiqi and the others arrived at a dark underground room. Leng Shiqi looked around and found that there were all kinds of formations and restrictions here. This should be where the beast was locked up. At this time, Elder Qing took out something that looked like a key and opened up a door in the layers of formations. He said, Lord Lu, the beast is inside. However, this beast is abnormally fierce and has strange methods. Even with restrictions, it's still dangerous. It's best if Lord Lu doesn't get too close. Leng Shiqi nodded silently and walked through the door. Guan Feihong waited in place. As soon as he stepped in, he immediately sensed Nine Leaf in the illusion world. So even though he didn't see it, he knew that it was Nine Leaf that was locked up here. Leng Shiqi raised his head and saw hundreds of golden chains intertwined in the air to form a cage. Inside the cage, there was a demonic beast that was half the height of a human curled up. It was Nine Leaf. Just as Leng Shiqi was wondering why Nine Leaf was actually captured, Nine Leaf's voice appeared in Leng Shiqi's mind. Leng Shiqi, why are you here? Leng Shiqi heard that Nine Leaf's tone was very relaxed. It didn't seem like he was about to be publicly killed and become a tool for the Wind and Thunder Tower to gain reputation. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but recall the time when Nine Leaf was being hunted down by the people of Extreme Fire Manor. Nine Leaf had also appeared relaxed and content. He wasn't sure if Nine Leaf had deliberately allowed himself to be caught. Senior Nine Leaf, how did you get captured by the Wind and Thunder Tower? Leng Shiqi communicated with Nine Leaf through the spiritual illusion realm. Humph. Nine Leaf let out a disdainful snort. If I don't get caught, I won't be able to escape the pursuit of a large number of masters in the East County. Moreover, the Wind Thunder Tower did not capture me. I came here on my own accord. Otherwise, how could that bastard Hong Guangji catch me? Leng Shiqi thought about it and agreed. Although Nine Leaf was a rank 4 demonic beast, if she wanted to escape, Hong Guangji really couldn't do anything to her. However, Leng Shiqi was even more confused. Since Nine Leaf wanted to use the Wind and Thunder Tower to avoid being hunted down, he should have achieved his goal by now. Why was he still staying here? Leng Shiqi didn't believe that this restriction could really control Nine Leaf. As if seeing through Leng Shiqi's thoughts, Nine Leaf said, Since you're here, it means that the Demon Extermination Conference of the Wind and Thunder Tower is starting today, right? That's right. Most of the people outside have arrived. It will probably start at noon. Senior Nine Leaf, do you want me to think of a way to help you escape? There's no need. I don't care about this array formation. I'll just send a fake body out later. Let me ask you. With so many people here today, the Masters of the Wind and Thunder Tower should have gone out to welcome the distinguished guests, right? Hearing this, Leng Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. He seemed to have guessed Nine Leaf's intention. Nine Leaf was probably eyeing the treasures hidden in the Wind and Thunder Tower again. However, it was indeed as Nine Leaf said. As there were many distinguished guests with high status present today, the sect master and many elders of the Wind and Thunder Tower were also receiving the guests. Leng Shiqi replied, Everything is as senior expected. Very good. Nine Leaf said with satisfaction. Since you're here, help me out later. You don't have to give me the resources you owe me. Don't have to give? Leng Shiqi was secretly shocked. He owed half of the resources to the Nine Leaf Profound Yang sect. Nine Leaf actually said he didn't want it. It could be imagined that what Nine Leaf wanted must be an extremely precious heavenly treasure. However, Leng Shiqi still couldn't agree directly. He still had to ask clearly first. Senior, can you tell me specifically what you need me to do? Originally, I planned to use the illusory god technique to fake my death, and then get something. But that thing is also surrounded by array formations and restrictions, and there is also a spirit astral realm cultivator guarding it. According to my original plan, I wanted to end the battle quickly, and take the treasure before the Masters of the Wind and Thunder Tower could react. Now that you're here, it's even simpler. You are now at the Spirit Aperture realm and proficient in illusion techniques. You should have a way to hypnotize the person next to you. Leng Shiqi glanced at Elder Qing. Since they came in, Elder Qing had been standing behind Leng Shiqi. This person's cultivation was similar to Leng Shiqi's, at the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm. Leng Shiqi still had some confidence. Yes. Very good. Later, you can hypnotize him directly. I'll leave an illusory body here to set up first. This way, the chances of success will be higher. Leng Shiqi nodded silently. Then, a green ring with a ferocious appearance quietly appeared on his finger. It was the 7th level spiritual weapon, the God of Poison Ring. Immediately after, a majestic and pure mental strength surged out. Leng Shiqi turned around abruptly, and his eyes flashed with 5-colored light. In Elder Qing's eyes, the scene of heaven and earth changed instantly, for heavenly deities looked down on all living beings. Elder Qing's eyes suddenly widened, and his gaze became unfocused. Taking advantage of this opportunity, 9 leaves purple light flowed, and left an identical demon body in place. She went directly to Leng Shiqi's side. 9 leaf glanced at Elder Qing and said in surprise, "This move of yours is quite impressive. The array formation outside can sense my aura. Put away my corporeal body and bring me out first." Then, a green shadow rushed out from 9 leaves' body and entered Leng Shiqi's illusion world. Leng Shiqi immediately put away 9 leaves' body, and then he made the same expression as Elder Qing. After about half an instance's time, Elder Qing finally recovered. His face was pale, and a layer of sweat seeped out of his forehead. He first looked at the cage in the air, and was relieved when he found that the demon beast was still trapped inside. At this time, Leng Shiqi also woke up. He immediately said with a bit of shock, "Elder Qing, what happened just now? This demon beast is very strange. It can control people's souls. We might have fallen into its trap just now. Lord Lu, let's quickly leave this place," Elder Qing said with lingering fear. "Okay, let's go." Chapter 412. Leng Shiqi and Elder Qing walked out with lingering fear. When Guan Feihong saw this, he was slightly puzzled, but he did not ask anything and silently followed behind Leng Shiqi. When the 3 of them returned to the ground, Leng Shiqi said, "Elder Qing, I see that there are many guests today. You should go and entertain the other guests." This, Elder Qing hesitated for a moment. Leng Shiqi casually said, "It's fine, I'll just walk around." Elder Qing then cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your understanding, Lord Lu. The demon slaughtering assembly will begin at noon. At that time, please come to the Wind Thunder platform to watch." "All right. I'll take my leave." After Elder Qing left, Leng Shiqi quietly opened his supercilious eyes and avoided all the spirit cultivators. He then released 9 leaf from a secret place. The moment 9 leaf came out, her eyes flashed with excitement. She said, "Leng Shiqi, when the time is right, it's best if you can help me delay Hong Guangji for a while. As long as you can delay him, I have a 100% chance of getting that item. When the time comes, you can have a share." Leng Shiqi had always been curious. What treasure did 9 leaf have her eyes on? "Senior 9 leaf, I wonder what the item you're talking about is?" 9 leaf smiled mysteriously. "That item is called the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Not only can it refine the power of wind and thunder, it also contains a trace of the power of destiny. In some ways, it's not much inferior to the Heaven Demon Soul Crystal. It's an incredible treasure." Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Leng Shiqi knew about this item, because this was the foundation of the Wind Thunder Tower, the sect's most precious treasure. 9 leaf actually planned to dig out the roots of the Wind Thunder Tower. If Hong Guangji knew that the demonic beasts they had personally captured were actually targeting their sect's most precious treasure, who knew how he would feel? Leng Shiqi felt that he didn't need to worry too much about this matter. After all, even if he didn't come to the Wind Thunder Tower, 9 leaf would have a way to get the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. And since he came, he could be considered to have helped a little. He also earned a lot. Putting everything else aside, just the large amount of resources that he owed 9 leaf was already a considerable amount of wealth. Therefore, he just had to pretend that he didn't know anything and secretly delay Hong Guangji for a while. This was a piece of cake for him. In the following time, Leng Shiqi and Guan Feihong walked around the Wind Thunder Tower for a while and experienced the uniqueness of the Wind Thunder Tower. At noon, they arrived at the venue of the monster extermination meet, the Wind Thunder platform. At this moment, the Wind Thunder arena was already packed with people. There were already many disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower. In addition to the guests, the entire Wind Thunder arena was a little crowded. On the east side of the Wind Thunder platform, a jade platform had been erected. There were about 10 people seated on it. These were all VIPs invited by the Wind Thunder Tower. None of them had simple statuses. Everyone in the Wind Thunder arena had a curious and expectant look on their faces. Especially for those spirit cultivators below the 4 realms of heaven. It was very novel to be able to see a high-level demonic beast, not to mention killing one in public. After Leng Shiqi arrived here, he was led to the jade platform by a disciple of the Wind Thunder Tower. He looked at them carefully, but he didn't recognize anyone. However, just because he didn't recognize these people didn't mean that he didn't know who they were. After he became the great supervisor, he read the information of all the famous people in the North County. There were a total of 13 people, most of whom were the sect leaders or the upper echelons of various spirit cultivator sects. There were also a few city lords of several nearby cities. And then there was the commissioner of the discipline department, Wang Tai. Wang Tai was the commissioner of the discipline department, who awed the North County. His cultivation at the 9th level of the spirit gang realm was the best. When he saw Leng Shiqi coming over, his eyes immediately locked on Leng Shiqi. Since Leng Shiqi became the supervisor half a year ago, Wang Tai often heard this name. Especially after Leng Shiqi destroyed the Xianyang sect, some people in the discipline department still had a lot of opinions, because this kind of thing should be the responsibility of the discipline department, to be more precise. According to common sense, after Leng Shiqi got the evidence that the Xianyang sect colluded with the Zhulu state, he should report it to Duan Chun, and Duan Chun should ask the discipline department to destroy the Xianyang sect. However, Leng Shiqi destroyed the Xianyang sect by himself. Such a huge contribution had been swallowed by him alone. Wang Tai thought that Leng Shiqi would definitely be suppressed by Duan Chun, but he didn't expect that in just a few months, Leng Shiqi would ascend to the position of the great supervisor again. Now Leng Shiqi's official position was the same as Wang Tai's, but the Dark Thunder Guard supervised the world, including the discipline department. So from this point of view, Leng Shiqi still had the power to suppress Wang Tai. Wang Tai, a master at the 9th level of Gang Spirit Realm, was suppressed by Leng Shiqi, who was at the 5th level of Spiritual Aperture Realm, which made him unhappy. However, Wang Tai didn't intend to target Leng Shiqi. He was not stupid. Since Leng Shiqi could be the great supervisor, he must have both background and ability. Besides, the discipline department and the Dark Thunder Guard had always minded their own business, so he didn't have to find fault with them. The most important thing was that he had more important things to do in the Wind and Thunder Tower. Leng Shiqi walked up to the jade platform and exchanged pleasantries with the group of big shots. Everyone had joyous expressions on their faces, and they were all in harmony. Finally, Leng Shiqi sat beside Wang Tai. He was also very curious about why Wang Tai came uninvited. Wang Tai said with a smile, "Mr. Liu, you are promoted to the great supervisor at such a young age. You are really a young hero." "You flatter me, Mr. Wang," Leng Shiqi said modestly. However, Wang Tai immediately condensed his voice into a line and transmitted a message to Leng Shiqi. "Mr. Liu, I don't know if you are interested in one thing." Leng Shiqi didn't know how to condense his voice into a line, so he could only use his eyes to signal Wang Tai to tell him the details. Wang Tai then transmitted a message. "To tell you the truth, the reason why I came to the Wind and Thunder Tower is that the Wind and Thunder Tower has angered the public. The evil beast to be killed in this demon slaughtering conference has stolen a lot of resources from various spirit cultivation sects in the East County. As far as I know, although this evil beast is only a rank 4 evil beast, it has spiritual intelligence and super strength. Even an ordinary master of Gang Spirit Realm can't defeat it." Later, several spirit cultivation sects joined hands to hunt down this evil beast, but it still escaped and came to the North County. The evil beast was seriously injured, and it happened to be caught by Hong Guangji and others who were passing by at that time. If Hong Guangji secretly killed the evil beast, it would be fine, but he wanted to use this evil beast to increase the reputation of the Wind and Thunder Tower, and held such a demon-slaughtering conference, which completely angered those sects in the East County. Now the forces in the East County had already known the news and were clamoring for the Wind and Thunder Tower to hand over the evil beast, but Hong Guangji didn't care at all. I came here because I was afraid that those forces in the East County would make trouble. If there is really any trouble in this demon-slaughtering conference, I hope Mr. Lu can stand out and say something. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi's eyes began to flicker. Chapter 413. Not long ago, when Leng Shiqi met Nine Leaf only said a few words about what he had experienced, so Leng Shiqi did not know what had happened. Now that he heard King Tai's words, he knew the whole story. Leng Shiqi admired Nine Leaf's ability to cause trouble. She actually went to the East County and provoked several spirit cultivator sects. She was even able to escape from the many experts who were chasing her. If she had not deliberately been caught by Hong Guangji, she would not have been caught by anyone. When these things happened, Leng Shiqi was either far away in Zhulu country or in closed-door cultivation, so he did not know that Nine Leaf had caused so much trouble. Secondly, Leng Shiqi felt that Hong Guangji was a little confused. Nine Leaf had stirred up trouble in the East County. Not only had those forces lost a lot of resources, they had also lost a lot of disciples. In the end, Wind and Thunder Tower had taken advantage of them. Just as King Tai had said, Hong Guangji should not have held this demon-slaughtering assembly. It would have been better if he had secretly handed Nine Leaf to those sects in exchange for some resources. Wind and Thunder Tower had invited spirit cultivators to participate in the demon-slaughtering assembly to increase their reputation, but if the forces of the East County came to cause trouble, not only would they not be able to increase their reputation, they would also lose face if they did not handle it well. As for King Tai's request, if it was in the past, Leng Shiqi would definitely not agree, because this would involve him in the conflict between the spirit cultivator sections. The discipline division was in charge of these things, so it was fine if they interfered, but the Dark Thunder Guards did not want to blindly interfere. However, Leng Shiqi thought that Nine Leaf had asked him to help stall Hong Guangji, so his thoughts began to become active. King Tai saw that Leng Shiqi had fallen into hesitation. He knew that he could not move Leng Shiqi with his mouth, so he continued to transmit his voice. Lord Lu, don't worry, I will definitely not let Leng Shiqi get into trouble. Moreover, whether it is the Discipline Commission or the Hidden Thunder Guards, they all hope that the North County will be peaceful. They don't want to do anything, just not make any mistakes. If Lord Lu can help me settle this matter smoothly today, I will owe Lord Lu a favor. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was also tempted. The favor of the Commissioner of Discipline Department, a master at the 9th level of Gang Spirit Realm, was too valuable. If this favor was used well, it could play a crucial role. Leng Shiqi nodded gently. Seeing this, Wang Taiyang smiled. Although Leng Shiqi's cultivation was not very high, his status was not low. He definitely had a say here. The words of the Discipline Commission and the Dark Thunder Guards, who were in charge of the North County, at the same time, had a great deterrent effect. King Tai was even more confident about today's mission. Just as they were secretly discussing a deal, Hong Guangji stood up, and the others all tacitly stopped talking. The spectators on the Wind Thunder platform quieted down as well. They knew that the Demon Slaughter Conference was about to begin. Hong Guangji's old face was flushed at this time. His mouth moved slightly, and his voice became clear, and came into everyone's ears. Following that, he began to speak slowly like a leader. From time to time, he would list out some of Nine Leaf's crimes. He also described how hard they had worked and how great of a price they had paid to capture Nine Leaf. In short, he described how Nine Leaf had committed the most heinous crimes, and how they were righteous and awe-inspiring to get rid of evil for the people. Half an hour had passed since Hong Guangji opened his mouth. Leng Shiqi even planned to divide part of his consciousness to deduce the spiritual skills. At this moment, a group of people rushed in aggressively. Behind this group of people, there were several disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower shouting, "Master, we don't know where they came from." We can't stop them. There were 4 people standing at the front of the group of people who broke in, and they were all in the gang spirit realm. Behind them, there were 20 or 30 people, all of whom were spirit cultivators in the 4 realms of celestial being. These people were all gloomy. Obviously, they did not come with good intentions. The one-armed man among the 4 gang spirit realm cultivators sneered. That demonic beast was clearly being chased by us, but you, Hongguangji, secretly took it away. You even held a demonic beast slaughtering assembly. How ridiculous. That's right. When we were chasing the demonic beast, you said that you had never seen it. Now I want to hear your explanation. Another one-eyed man said bitterly. Seeing these 2 people, everyone on the Wind Thunder platform suddenly burst into an uproar. The one-armed man is the leader of the Heavenly Destruction Alliance, Mangon. He is an expert in the late stage of the gang spirit realm. Yes, the one-eyed man beside him is the deputy leader of the Heavenly Destruction Alliance, Zhengshen. There are also people from the Refining Heart Palace and the Drunk Dream Valley. What are they doing in the Wind Thunder Tower? Didn't you hear what they said? The demonic beast that the Wind Thunder Tower wants to behead in public is the demonic beast that caused a bloody storm in the East County not long ago. It is said that these sects lost a lot of disciples while chasing the demonic beast. The demonic beast is the shame of their lives. If they can kill the demonic beast, they can save some face. However, the demonic beast was hidden by the Wind Thunder Tower. Today, they are here to settle accounts with Hongguangji. Hehe, now there is a good show to watch. This trip is not in vain. Seeing the arrival of Mangon, Zhengshen and others, Wang Tai became serious. He had thought that even if people from the East County came, there would not be so many masters. But now, there were 4 gang spirit realm cultivators. This was not easy to solve. Looking at these people who came to make trouble, Leng Shiqi also had the mentality of watching a good show. As for Hongguangji, his face was the worst. He was being questioned in front of so many people. Where was his dignity? Hongguangji also expected that people from the East County might come. So he forced a smile and said, "Are you also here to attend the demonic beast slaughtering assembly? Please take a seat." Mangon immediately sneered. What the hell is the demonic beast slaughtering assembly? You don't deserve it. Even if there is going to be a demonic beast slaughtering assembly, it should be held by us, not by a villain like you who secretly seeks profits. The smile on Hongguangji's face had disappeared. What Mangon said was completely merciless. He said in a low voice, "Are you sure you want to go against the Wind Thunder Tower? You have chased the demonic beast for so long without success. In the end, it was caught by the Wind Thunder Tower. I have done what you can't do. Naturally, I am qualified to hold the demonic beast slaughtering assembly. Bah. We have seriously injured the demonic beast. You just took advantage of the situation." Zhengshen shouted angrily. "Today you'd better hand over the demonic beast otherwise." Speaking of this, the 4 gang spirit realm cultivators emitted horrible spiritual pressure at the same time. The air in the entire Wind Thunder platform suddenly seemed to be emptied in an instant, making it difficult for people to breathe. At this moment, Wang Tai stood out. Chapter 414. King Tai was a conservative person. In his opinion, as long as the North region was stable, everything would be fine. Therefore, he came here to be a peacemaker. At this moment, King Tai saw that the 2 sides were like fire and water and could fight at any time. If they really fought, no matter who won, the East region and North region spirit cultivator sects would be in chaos. This wasn't what the Discipline Division Grand Commissioner wanted to see. King Tai stepped and instantly arrived between the 2 sides. Zhengshen and the other 3's spirit pressure didn't seem to exist on King Tai's body. He said with a smile, "Sect Leader Hong, Alliance Leader Man, we can talk about anything. There's no need to use weapons and hurt the harmony." Man Tiangon and the others naturally recognized King Tai. At first, their attention was on Hongguangji, so they didn't notice King Tai was here. Since King Tai was here, Man Tiangon retracted his spirit pressure and cupped his fists. Lord Wang is also here. I'm sure Lord Wang knows the whole story. This isn't a big deal. As long as Hong Guangji hands over the demon beast, we'll leave. That's right. This is already the biggest concession we can make, Zheng Shen added. King Tai didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at Hong Guangji and gave him a meaningful look. Hong Guangji immediately understood King Tai's meaning. King Tai wanted stability and Hong Guangji to hand over the demon beast. Hong Guangji definitely wasn't willing, but King Tai was the North Region's Grand Commissioner. He didn't dare to provoke him. However, Hong Guangji also guessed that the Heavenly Cripple Union might come to find trouble with him. He wasn't unprepared. He transmitted his voice to King Tai. Lord Wong, don't worry. I'll take care of this. I won't let the East Region and North Region become chaotic. That better be the case. Otherwise, I won't clean up your mess. King Tai heard that Hong Guangji was prepared, so he retreated to the side. Hong Guangji knew that if he didn't handle today's matter well, King Tai wouldn't help him and would even hit him when he was down. Alliance Leader Man, since you're all here, how about this? The Demon Slaughter Assembly will continue as usual, but Alliance Leader Man will personally kill the demon beast. How about it? As soon as these words came out, Man Tiangang began to ponder. Lung Shiqi felt that this method seemed to be a good method for both sides to take a step back, but in the end, it still depended on how determined the people of the Heavenly Stem were. Man Tiangan, Zheng Shen, and the others had a simple discussion and said, "This method is not suitable. I have a better idea." "Alliance Master Man, please," Hong Guangji said. "We Spirit Cultivator naturally respect strength. Today, I will set up a bet with this matter. Each of us will send out 3 people to fight, and the one who wins the most will be the winner. If Sect Leader Hong wins, we will leave without a second word. However, if we win, Humph, please bring out the demon beast Sect Leader Hong." Hong Guangji's expression darkened. Including him, there were only 2 Gang Spirit Realm experts in the Wind and Thunder Tower. The other one was still guarding the treasure pavilion of the sect. However, there were 4 masters of Gang Spirit Realm on the other side. This was clearly an unequal gambling fight. How could he agree? But looking at the expressions of the people of the Heavenly Stem, it seemed that if he did not agree, they would really fight. At this time, Hong Guangji was in a dilemma. He really underestimated the Spirit Cultivator forces in the East County's obsession with the demon beast. At the end of the day, that demonic beast was only a rank 4 demonic beast. The reason why Hong Guangji held the demonic slaughtering assembly was firstly because this demonic beast had indeed caused a huge commotion. Secondly, many people had never seen a real demonic beast before, so they were willing to give face and participate in the demonic slaughtering assembly. But he did not expect that Nine Leave was about to swallow up all the resources of the Heavenly Destruction Alliance and several other forces. Not only that, in the process of chasing Nine Leave, they lost a large number of disciples. How could they let go of such hatred easily? They had to kill Renjioli in order to vent the hatred in their hearts. Only then would they be able to save some face. At this point, Hong Guangji had an idea. There were many masters of Gang Spirit Realm present. As long as he could draw 1 or 2 of them to his side, he might be able to win the bet. So Hong Guangji looked at those people on the Jade platform. Most of them were in the Gang Spirit Realm. But when they saw Hong Guangji looking at them, they all avoided eye contact, and some of them even closed their eyes to rest. They were all people in high positions, so they naturally knew that this was the grudge between the Wind and Thunder Tower and the forces in the East County. They did not want to get involved. Only one person did not avoid Hong Guangji, that was Lung Shiqi. Unfortunately, Hong Guangji subconsciously eliminated Lung Shiqi from the list. In his opinion, Lung Shiqi could sit in the position of the supervisor of the North County, because of his ability and background, not strength. At this moment, he just needed a strong person. And the reason why Lung Shiqi kept looking at Hong Guangji was not that he really wanted to help him in the bet. Moreover, Lung Shiqi knew himself well. He could indeed threaten the masters of Gang Spirit Realm when he broke out with all his strength. But it was limited to the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm. Among the 4 masters of Gang Spirit Realm, the weakest one was at the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm. So Lung Shiqi did not want to go up and look for trouble. He stared at Hong Guangji, because he was waiting for something. Calculating the time, Nine Leaves should have started to take action. No matter whether she succeeded or not, Hong Guangji, the head of the Wind and Thunder Tower, would definitely receive the message from the first elder who guarded the heavenly luck stone of wind and thunder. At that time, Hong Guangji would definitely react, and Leng Shiqi would have to do something. At this point, the entire wind and thunder platform fell into a dead silence. The people of Gang Spirit were waiting for Hong Guangji's reply. The people on the Jade platform were either looking around or resting with their eyes closed, while the people on the Wind and Thunder platform were waiting for a good show. Hong Guangji's face had become livid. The reason why he invited those big shots was that he intended to stand up for him. Now no one was willing to stand up for him. Just as Hong Guangji was thinking about what to do, suddenly, his eyes widened and his face changed greatly. Just now he received a message from the first elder, Ji Dong, that someone broke into their treasure pavilion and intended to steal the heavenly luck stone of wind and thunder. That was the most precious treasure of the Wind and Thunder Tower, and also the best treasure for practicing the Wind and Thunder formula. It was the foundation of the Wind and Thunder Tower. He had to go there. Hong Guangji hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Everyone, I'm sorry. Something urgent has happened in our sect. Please excuse me for a moment." Gang Spirit was the first to disagree. He said harshly, "What? Do you want to refuse? Then don't blame us for being rude." At this time, Hong Guangji did not want to entangle with them about the evil beast, so he said directly, "After I deal with the matter, I'll give you the evil beast." Gang Spirit was stunned at first. Hong Guangji bowed his head? What happened in the Wind and Thunder Tower? Just when Hong Guangji was about to leave with his disciples, Leng Shiqi spoke. Chapter 415. Leng Shiqi walked to the edge of the Jade platform and said loudly, "Sect Master Hong, there's something I don't know if I should say." Hong Guangji, who was about to leave with his people, paused. He didn't expect Leng Shiqi to speak at this crucial moment. However, Leng Shiqi was an important guest that he personally invited, and was also the supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guards. He still had to give him some face. Hong Guangji suppressed the anxiety in his heart and said, "Lord Lu, please speak your mind." "Sect Master Hong, the reason why we came to the Wind Thunder Tower is to see the true face of the demon beast, and to witness the beheading of the demon beast in front of everyone to comfort the souls of the innocent people who died in the hands of the demon beast. However, if Sect Master Hong gave the demon beast away so easily, wouldn't this demon slaughter assembly become a joke? Did you ask us to come here just to watch a joke?" When Leng Shiqi said this, the entire place was in an uproar. First, it was the lower-level spirit cultivators in the Wind Thunder platform. They were also the ones with the most numbers. They were the first to be unhappy. "Lord Lu is right. We came all the way to the Wind Thunder Tower to watch the execution of the demon beast. In the blink of an eye, you gave the demon beast away. Then why are we here?" "That's right. We came because we gave the Wind Thunder Tower face. Yet, you left us here. What kind of logic is this?" The entire Wind Thunder platform instantly became noisy. Almost everyone was expressing their dissatisfaction towards the Wind Thunder Tower. Man Tiangang and the others didn't say anything because they were a little surprised and doubtful. They were clearly the main characters today. Why did no one pay attention to them all of a sudden? Hong Guangji didn't bother with them anymore, and directly gave the demon beast to them. Man Tiangang should be very happy, but now he felt a little strange. However, seeing Hong Guangji being condemned by everyone, he was still secretly happy. King Tai looked at Leng Shiqi, and a trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. He wanted Leng Shiqi to speak for him. However, seeing that Hong Guangji had already retreated, although King Tai didn't know the reason, the Wind Thunder Tower and the Heavenly Cripple Union shouldn't be fighting today. King Tai's mission was also completed. However, Leng Shiqi's actions were equivalent to humiliating the Wind Thunder Tower. It was considered to be going against the Wind Thunder Tower. This made him feel surprised. The people on the Jade stage were even more surprised. Leng Shiqi's actions undoubtedly implicated the Wind Thunder Tower. Even if Leng Shiqi was the great supervisor, there was no need to offend a second-rate sect for no reason. Of course, the most surprised and angry. Now he was rushing to the treasure pavilion. However, Leng Shiqi's words made Han Guangji the target of public criticism. Now facing public anger, he definitely couldn't just leave. However, Han Guangji didn't know why Leng Shiqi did this. The Wind Thunder Tower and the Dark Thunder Guards had always minded their own business. Han Guangji didn't target Leng Shiqi, and even gave Leng Shiqi enough face. However, if he stayed here for a moment longer, the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone might be lost. He was extremely anxious. He could only secretly remember this grudge and said in a deep voice, "Fellow cultivators, this is indeed the fault of the Wind Thunder Tower. I apologize to everyone here. However, our sect does have an extremely urgent matter to deal with. Please forgive us." At this point, Han Guangji hesitated slightly and said, "Disciples, listen up. Quickly head to the treasure pavilion." Treasure pavilion? When everyone heard these 3 words, they finally understood. Something had happened to the treasure pavilion of the Wind Thunder Tower. That was why Han Guangji was so anxious and even gave up the demonic beasts. He didn't even care about the demonic slaughtering meat. In this way, many people could understand the reason behind his actions. However, they were also very curious. Who dared to have designs on the treasure pavilion of the Wind Thunder Tower? Leng Shiqi saw that Han Guangji was about to leave and said, "I see. I misunderstood Sect Master Hong. I'm really sorry. Something has happened to your sect. I'm willing to help Sect Master Hong. I hope Sect Master Hong doesn't mind my low cultivation." Han Guangji stopped in his tracks. He couldn't guess what Leng Shiqi was planning. However, at this time he couldn't be bothered to guess what Leng Shiqi was thinking. He nodded and said, "Lord Lu, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough." With that, he led the Wind Thunder Tower disciples and rushed to the treasure pavilion. Leng Shiqi mixed in with the crowd and followed. As for the remaining people, some felt that they didn't see what they wanted and left. There were also people who were curious about what happened to the treasure pavilion of the Wind Thunder Tower. They stayed here and waited for the results. The Sky Stem people were a little embarrassed. Han Guangji agreed to give them the demonic beasts. However, most of the Wind Thunder Tower disciples weren't here. There wasn't even anyone to greet them. They could only continue to stay here and wait for the matter to end before asking for the demonic beasts. Wang Tai's eyes flickered. In the end, he also chose to stay here. After all, the grudge between the Wind Thunder Tower and the Heavenly Cripple Union hadn't been resolved. He couldn't leave in peace. As for the people on the Jade platform, they all left. They didn't stand up for Han Guangji earlier. Now they didn't have the face to sit here. On the other side, Leng Shiqi followed the Wind Thunder Tower disciples and quickly rushed to the treasure pavilion. He delayed Han Guangji for a while just now. He didn't know if 9 Leaves succeeded. When everyone arrived at the treasure pavilion, they saw a corner of the treasure pavilion suddenly explode. Boom! With a loud sound, a scorpion-like demonic beast with purple light flowing around its body rushed into the distance at an extremely fast speed. Following closely behind him was an old man who had lost half of his sleeves. He was the Grand Elder of the Wind Thunder Tower, Jidong. Jidong rushed out of the treasure pavilion and saw Han Guangji and his disciples. He quickly shouted, "Quick chase! That demonic beast stole the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone." What? All the disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower, including Han Guangji, were shocked. Even Han Guangji, a master at the later stage of Gang Spirit Realm, was a little panicked. The thing he was most worried about still happened. However, he didn't expect that the one who stole the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone was actually the demonic beast he caught. Previously, Jidong only transmitted a message to him, saying that someone broke into the treasure pavilion to steal the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. However, he didn't have time to say who it was. Han Guangji was shocked and angry. Shouldn't that demonic beast be trapped in the underground formation? When did it run out? However, he immediately calmed down and shouted, "All disciples of Celestial Realm, follow me to kill this demonic beast." Immediately, dozens of people left the crowd and chased after 9 Leaves. 9 Leaves' voice also appeared in Leng Shiqi's mind. "The formation in this treasure pavilion is extremely powerful. I'm injured. Come and help me later." Chapter 416. Nine Leaf had really succeeded. Leng Shiqi was secretly delighted. He saw Hong Guangji and Ji Dong leading dozens of disciples of the celestial realm to chase after Nine Leaf, but no one paid attention to him. He silently withdrew from the crowd and walked in the direction of the Wind Thunder platform. However, when he was halfway there, he activated the supercilious eye. Seeing that there was no one around, he sank into the ground and hid first. Then he began to try to contact Nine Leaf, but Nine Leaf did not respond at all. He must be trying his best to escape. Nine Leaf needed help, but Leng Shiqi did not have the ability to face 2 Spirit Gang Realm Masters and dozens of Celestial Realm Spirit Cultivators at the same time. Therefore, he could only use his wits. Then Leng Shiqi activated the Fate skill. In the system map, he immediately saw Nine Leaf, Hong Guangji and others. In terms of speed, Nine Leaf might be injured, so his speed was not as fast as Hong Guangji and Ji Dong. It would not take long for the two to catch up. Although Leng Shiqi knew that Nine Leaf had many secret skills, he could not help but be a little worried. If something really happened to Nine Leaf, that part of his soul would disappear forever. Leng Shiqi did not care whether Nine Leaf could sense his news or not. He immediately sent a message to Nine Leaf, and then the 3-colored light flashed around him and he disappeared. In the back mountain of the Wind Thunder Tower, a group of masters were chasing after Nine Leaf. Hong Guangji and Ji Dong were the fastest, and they were both shocked and angry. If Nine Leaf really escaped with the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luckstone today, then their Wind Thunder Tower would become a laughingstock in the North County, and even in the entire West Wilderness County. The demonic beasts that they had personally captured had stolen their sect's most precious treasure. How could this matter of shooting oneself in the foot not become a laughingstock? Therefore, the two of them were also doing their best to chase after him. The Wind Thunder Tower's cultivation method could trigger the power of wind and thunder. They were extremely fast and were about to catch up with Nine Leaf. However, at this moment, Nine Leaf raised his hand and threw out the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. With Nine Leaf's power, the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone was like a meteor shooting through the sky. Hong Guangji and Ji Dong looked at each other with joy in their eyes. They knew that the demonic beast couldn't hold on any longer, which was why it came up with this plan. It wanted to give up on the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone to separate the two of them in order to survive. Hong Guangji immediately said, "Junior brother Ji, go get the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. I must kill this demonic beast with my own hands. This demon's methods are strange and hard to guard against. Senior brother, you must be careful." After Ji Dong finished speaking, he separated from Hong Guangji and chased after the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. In the distance, the Wind Thunder God's Luck Stone was about to land. At this moment, a person in pitch-black armor and bathed in tricolored spirit light suddenly appeared. He reached out and caught the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone. This person was naturally Leng Shiqi. When the Wind Thunder God Stone entered his hand, Leng Shiqi felt a strange power coming from his hand. This power seemed to contain several different attributes, including the Wind attribute, the Thunder attribute, and a mysterious power. However, now was not the time for Leng Shiqi to study the Wind Thunder God's Luck Stone. He immediately stored it in the system space. Who dares to touch the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone? Die. It was also at this moment that Ji Dong's voice reverberated like thunder. Ji Dong's speed was indeed very fast. When he arrived, he happened to see Leng Shiqi put away the Wind Thunder God's Luck Stone. He was immediately furious. It turned out that the demonic beast had a helper. However, when Ji Dong discovered that Leng Shiqi was only in the Spirit Aperture realm, his killing intent soared. He waved his hands, and the wind and clouds suddenly surged between heaven and earth. Lightning flashed in the clouds. Then an invisible hurricane blew up, and this hurricane was full of countless wind-cutting spirit gang. Thunder flashed in the sky, and the Wind Thunder Spirit Gang led the thunder of heaven and earth to form a lightning python that struck down. This Ji Dong was actually a Spirit Gang Realm Spirit Caster. Facing this terrifying attack, a blood mark suddenly appeared on Leng Shiqi's forehead, and his aura instantly soared to the late stage of the Spirit Aperture realm. He used the ghost steps of the Nether Spring and dodged back and forth between the wind blades and the lightning pythons like a spirit of the underworld. At the same time, he held a 5th-level spirit sword in his hand, and the blade was stained with layers of blood. Blood evil chi surged up, shattering the lightning and wind blades one after another. Seeing this, Jidong's heart could not help but be surprised. The cultivation of the person who suddenly appeared was not high. Under his attack, he seemed to be struggling to survive, but in fact he was not injured at all. Even a spirit cultivator in the early stage of the spirit aperture realm might not be able to take this move unscathed, but he was not injured at all. Doubts appeared in Jidong's mind. Who was this person? To be able to have such a powerful combat strength in the spirit aperture realm, his background was definitely not simple. However, no matter who the other party was, he must die today. Jidong's hands quickly formed a seal, and a waning moon completely condensed from wind blades appeared. Immediately, the waning moon burst with lightning. At this moment, he had perfectly merged the power of wind and thunder together. The waning moon of wind and thunder tore the sky directly, and in an instant, it was in front of Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi's eyes narrowed, and he opened his supercilious eyes to look for the flaws. Then he held a 5th-level spirit sword, and when the waning moon of wind and thunder was in front of him, the spirit sword was unsheathed. In an instant, a blood-colored sword light shone between heaven and earth, and a strong blood evil chi soared into the sky. Endless sword intent broke out from it, and it actually shattered the waning moon of wind and thunder. However, the 5th-level spirit sword in Lung Shiqi's hand was also broken. Even the 5th-level spirit sword could not withstand the power of the sword, so one could imagine how strong this sword was. At this moment, Jidong's pupils shrank, because there was an invisible blade breaking into his spiritual space. It was a sword light that shook his spiritual space in an instant. Jidong hurriedly mobilized all his spiritual power to resist and wear down the sword light. With his spiritual power in the middle stage of Spirit Gang realm, in the end he consumed 60% of his spiritual power to block it. At this time he still had a little lingering fear. If he was not a spirit caster, but an ordinary spirit cultivator, his spiritual power would have been damaged by this sword. However, when Jidong withdrew his mind, there was no trace of Lung Shiqi nearby. Jidong's old face was gloomy like the sea that was about to set off a tsunami, and a terrifying power would erupt at any time. At the same time, he was even more surprised by Lung Shiqi's strength. The waning moon of wind and thunder was his full strength, and it was also one of his famous skills. Even spirit cultivators of the same level had to be very careful when dealing with it. But now, it was blocked by a person in the spirit aperture realm with only one sword. Not only was it blocked, but it also attacked his spiritual space. This even made him start to doubt his life. Chapter 417. Of course, Lung Shiqi wasn't as relaxed as Jidong had imagined. The divine ephemeral epiphyllum he had just used had been supplemented with the newly learned art of resisting fiend. That saber strike, on top of the original foundation, contained his fiendish aura, and had taken away more than half of the blood essence in his body. Only then was he able to block Jidong's attack, and take the opportunity to escape. Originally, Lung Shiqi planned to return to Hanzhou City directly, but now that his identity was different, he couldn't disappear for no reason. Furthermore, Guan Feihong was still in the Wind and Thunder Tower, so he had to return to the tower first and show his face in front of everyone. Furthermore, Lung Shiqi used the demonic beast blood rune armor to cover his face, and didn't use the ink jade sword or demon arrival battle blade. He wasn't afraid of being recognized. As for Nine Leave, he wasn't worried. Only Hong Guangji was chasing after Nine Leave. With Nine Leave's ability, he would definitely be able to escape. Jidong definitely didn't expect that the person who took away the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone would return to the Wind and Thunder Tower. But at this moment, Jidong's face was sinister and his eyes were filled with killing intent. However, he was helpless and could only meet up with Hong Guangji. When Jidong found his disciples, Hong Guangji still hadn't returned. After waiting for a long time, he finally returned. But when Jidong saw that Hong Guangji's face was also very ugly, Jidong's heart sank. Hong Guangji said solemnly, "Sai, that demonic beast was too cunning and proficient in illusion techniques. It escaped." But it's good that we can get the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone back. Jidong opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. He was too ashamed to say that the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone was taken away by a Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator. Seeing him like this, Hong Guangji had a bad premonition. He hurriedly asked, "Junior brother Ji, where's the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone?" Jidong's face turned red and said, "That demonic beast had an accomplice. The Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone was stolen." "What?" Hong Guangji roared in shock. "Who is it? Who is it?" "I don't know either. That person's entire body was covered, but he cultivates demonic arts. He should be from some demonic sect." Jidong shook his head. Hong Guangji said in surprise, "Demonic cultivator? But there are only a few evil cultivation sects in the whole Western Wilderness Prefecture, and I have never heard of a Gang Spirit Realm evil cultivator. Where did this one come from?" Jidong clenched his teeth and said, "Senior brother, that person is at the Spirit Aperture Realm." Hong Guangji's eyes immediately turned cold when he heard that. He stared at Jidong with suspicion. Who would believe that Jidong, a spiritual caster in the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, could not defeat a person in Spiritual Aperture Realm? Noticing that Hong Guangji's gaze was not right, Jidong laughed bitterly and said, "Senior brother sect leader, I've already done my best." However, although that demonic cultivator's cultivation was only at the Spirit Aperture Realm, his strength was extremely strong. He also knows an abnormally powerful saber art. Not only did he block my wind, thunder, falling stars and moon, he even secretly attacked my spiritual space. If it wasn't for my strong mental strength, I'm afraid my spiritual body would have been injured. Hong Guangji's first thought was that it was impossible. However, when he saw the sincerity in Jidong's eyes, he began to waver. Hong Guangji and Jidong had been brothers for decades, and they were also the ones who supported the current Wind Thunder Tower. And Jidong had never been greedy for power and wealth, so he took the initiative to guard the treasure pavilion. It was impossible for such a person to collude with outsiders to steal the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. Then again, if Jidong really wanted to monopolize the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone, he didn't have to go through so much trouble. Thinking of this, Hong Guangji's gaze was no longer so aggressive, but filled with endless distress. Up to now, they not only lost the most precious treasure of the sect, but also let the evil beast run away. This time, it was simply a double loss. Moreover, Hong Guangji had just promised to give the evil beast to the Heavenly Destruction Alliance, but the evil beast had already run away. How could he explain it to the Heavenly Destruction Alliance? Hong Guangji's Demon Extermination Assembly held today not only provoked the wrath of heaven and people, but also offended many people. There was a huge mess waiting for him to clean up, and he couldn't help but have a splitting headache. However, Hong Guangji had been the sect master for decades, and he quickly thought of some countermeasures. He said to Jidong, "Junior brother Ji, your top priority is to track down the whereabouts of the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. The most precious treasure of the sect must not be lost." Jidong nodded solemnly. "Sect master senior brother, don't worry. I set up a restriction on the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. As long as I go back and set up the formation, I will be able to sense its location." "That's great. Let's return to the sect first, and send the Heavenly Destruction Alliance people back." Hong Guangji then led his disciples back to the Wind Thunder platform. There weren't many people left in the Wind Thunder platform. Other than some of the lower-level disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower and the Sky Stem, there were only a few people left. Originally, there were still some people who were prepared to watch the show, but Hong Guangji and the rest had been gone for so long, and they didn't know when they would return. Everyone couldn't just wait here and do nothing, so they could only leave one by one. However, from then on, the Wind Thunder Tower's reputation plummeted. The only important person left on the Jade platform was King Tai. At this moment, he was chatting with Man Gone. His mission hadn't been completed, so he couldn't leave yet. Not long later, Lung Shiqi returned first. Seeing Lung Shiqi, King Tai, Man Tiangon, and the others immediately looked at him with inquiring eyes. Among everyone, only Lung Shiqi had followed Hong Guangji to the treasure pavilion. Therefore, They also wanted to know what had happened to the treasure pavilion of the Wind and Thunder Tower. The Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone was missing. This was the top secret of the Wind Thunder Tower. Leng Shiqi obviously couldn't casually say it. Leng Shiqi walked to King Tai's side and shook his head lightly. I don't know the details. When I arrived, Hong Guangji and Great Elder Ji Dong had already led the experts of the sect to chase after them. However, for them to value it so much, the Wind Thunder Tower must have lost something important. Oh. King Tai raised his eyebrows and said, who could break into the treasure pavilion and steal something right under Ji Dong's nose? Leng Shiqi looked at Mangon meaningfully and replied, this matter seems to have something to do with Alliance Chief Man. Man Tiangong turned his head in confusion. How did he get involved in this matter again? Because the one who stole the treasure wasn't a human, but a scorpion-like demonic beast. What did you say? Heavenly Stem immediately exploded. That demonic beast escaped and even stole the treasures of the Wind and Thunder Tower. The people of the Wind Thunder Tower are indeed a bunch of trash. Just as he said this, a large group of disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower walked over under Hong Guangji's lead. Many of them heard his words, and all of them glared at him. Chapter 418. Hong Guangji and a large group of Wind Thunder Tower disciples had just rushed back to the Wind Thunder platform when they heard Man Tiangong's words. Everyone was furious. However, Man Tiangong did not care at all. He directly said to Hong Guangji, since you have returned, I believe the matter at the treasure pavilion is over. Then shouldn't you give the demon beast to us now? Alliance leader man. Why do you ask when you already know the answer? Hong Guangji's eyes flashed. Man Tiangong snorted coldly. Hong Guangji, you wanted to kill this demon beast in front of everyone to make the Wind Thunder Tower famous. In the end, not only did the demon beast escape, but it also stole your important treasure. Ha ha ha, what a joke. If that demon beast had been chased to death by us back then, how would you have ended up like this? Hong Guangji suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Alliance leader man, did you come here just to mock me? The demon beast escaped. I admit that I was careless. Next, we should work together to hunt down this demon. Man Tiangong sneered. Work together? When sect leader Hong secretly captured the demon beast, why didn't you think of working together with us? We will catch the demon beast ourselves. However, after we catch it, the things on its body will naturally belong to us. Let's go. Then Man Tiangong and dozens of experts from the East County strode out of the Wind Thunder platform. From the beginning to the end, they did not give Hong Guangji any face at all. Hong Guangji secretly clenched his fists, but he could not flare up, nor could he get angry, because he was the one who was in the wrong, and he was the one who went back on his words. Man Tiangong and the others did not pursue the matter and chose to leave. It was already a good ending. If Hong Guangji dared to say a few more words of anger, Man Tiangong would really dare to fight with him. Now the most important thing for Hong Guangji was to find the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Seeing Man Tiangong and the others leave, King Tai secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Now that the two sides would not have a conflict for the time being, although he did not play a big role in this trip, he was still very satisfied with the result. King Tai said to Leng Shiqi beside him, Lord Lu, it's time for me to leave. Why don't you come with me? Very well, Leng Shiqi replied. Afterwards, the two of them bid farewell to Hong Guangji. These two were high-ranking members of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. Out of respect, Hong Guangji still personally saw them off. When they walked out of the gate of Wind and Thunder Watchtower, King Tai said, Your Excellency Lu has reached the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm at such a young age, and is also the great supervisor. It seems that the Dark Thunder Guard Elite Union of our Western Wilderness Prefecture will belong to you soon. Elite Society. This was the first time Leng Shiqi had heard these words, and he couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. However, he immediately thought of the quota that Eunuch Gao had given him a few months ago. If he guessed correctly, it should be the quota for the Elite Association. Unfortunately, Leng Shiqi still doesn't know what this elite does. There happened to be someone here who knew this, so he asked, Your Excellency King, I'm new here and don't know what this elite association is. Please enlighten me, Your Excellency. King Tai was a little surprised at first, but then he nodded with understanding and said, Your Excellency, Lu hasn't been in the Dark Thunder Guard for long, so it's normal that you don't know about the elite association. In fact, this elite association is a feast for our Thunderfire dynasty. The two most well-known forces of the Thunderfire dynasty are the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. It can be said that these two forces are the right and left arms of the Thunderfire dynasty. In order to maintain the strength and vitality of these two forces, every 10 years, the dynasty will gather the young talents of all provinces and counties together and call it the Elite Association. However, those who can attend the Elite Association are definitely the elites of all provinces and counties, because there is only one quota for each of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. That is to say, there are only 2 people in our Western Wilderness Prefecture who are qualified to attend the Elite Association. It's a pity that I failed to get this quota when I was young, so I really yearn for the Elite Association. I think Your Excellency Lu is very promising. Hearing these words, Lung Shiqi thought to himself that so it was like this. At the same time, he also understood why Yu Ruifeng revealed such a shocked expression when Eunuch Gao gave him the quota. According to King Tai, there was only one quota for the Dark Thunder Guard, and Eunuch Gao directly gave it to Lung Shiqi. How could Yu Ruifeng not be shocked? Of the 36 provinces of the Thunderfire dynasty, apart from the Imperial City, 35 of them had branches of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. This also meant that there were a total of 70 people participating in the Elite Association. These 70 people were the future of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. And Lung Shiqi was one of them. He said modestly, From what Your Excellency Wang said, this Elite Association is indeed worthy of its reputation. However, there are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the Dark Thunder Guard. Even if I wanted to, I might not have the ability. Your Excellency Lu is too modest. In the past, most of the people who went to the Elite Association were at the Spirit Aperture Realm, but there has never been a Spirit Aperture Realm supervisor or commissioner. Your Excellency Lu is the first, so the quota for the Dark Thunder Guard will be yours if nothing unexpected happens. Haha, then I will borrow Brother Wang's auspicious words. Lung Shiqi said with a smile. The two chatted as they walked. Although they were talking about some superficial things, Lung Shiqi still received some benefits. Not long after, the two parted ways. After Lung Shiqi and Guan Feihong returned to Hanzhou City, he directly went into his room and prepared to study the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. However, just as he took out the treasure, there was a sound beside him, which scared him so much that he quickly put away the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. He turned around and saw that Nine Leaf had already appeared in the room at some point. It was also at this moment that Ji Dong was seated within an extremely complicated formation in the treasure hall of the Wind Thunder Tower. There was a disc floating in front of him, and there was something like a pointer on the disc. This formation was the one that could sense the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Ji Dong's hands formed seals and sent out rays of spirit light. The disc in front of him also began to spin. Ji Dong's eyes stared at the pointer, but after a long time, the pointer did not seem to have any intention of stopping. Ji Dong frowned when he saw this scene, and his eyes revealed traces of surprise. This situation meant that even this formation could not sense the location of the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Could it be that the distance is too far? That shouldn't be. As long as the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone does not leave the Western Desolate Province, it should be able to sense it. Just as Ji Dong was puzzled, he suddenly realized that the pointer had stopped. However, he only took a glance and the pointer actually began to spin again. Although he did not know what was going on, the pointer did sense the direction of the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Chapter 419. In the Dark Thunder residence of Hanzhou City, Nine Leaf said anxiously as soon as he appeared, "Don't take out the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone rashly." Hearing this, Lung Shiqi's heart tightened. "Senior Nine Leaf, is there something fishy about the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone?" "Yes, there's a sensing restriction on it. Even if it's thousands of miles away, it can be sensed by the Wind Thunder Tower, Nine Leaf explained. Fortunately, you only took it out for a moment, so it should be fine. Lung Shiqi's eyes flashed, and he asked seriously, will the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone be sensed if it's placed in the mustard seed bag? Don't underestimate the Wind Thunder Tower's ability. This stone is their most precious treasure, and they spent a lot of effort on it. So even if it's placed in the mustard seed bag, it will still be sensed. But, don't you have an even more hidden space treasure? Speaking of this, Nine Leaf's tone became a little meaningful, but Lung Shiqi pretended not to hear it. He had been with Nine Leaf for so long, so it was not strange that Nine Leaf could guess that he had another kind of storage space. Lung Shiqi said, then what should we do next? Can we not take out the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone forever? Of course there is a way. I can use the power of the soul to isolate the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone, but I'm seriously injured now, so I have to recuperate for a while. Nine Leaf had gone through a series of battles and was now riddled with scars, so he really needed to recuperate first. Lung Shiqi nodded. That's right. I'll have someone prepare the resources for healing later. Okay, I'll leave it to you. Nine Leaf showed a trace of satisfaction. As a reward, after removing the restriction on the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone, I can give it to you to refine for 3 days. 3 days. Lung Shiqi was a little surprised when he heard this. The Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone contained a large amount of extremely pure wind and thunder power. If he could refine a part of it, it would be very convenient when he broke through to the astral spirit realm and condensed astral spirit. What's more, it was said that this treasure also contained a trace of luck power. Although it was only a legend, who knew if it could be refined? Luck was an illusory concept, but Lung Shiqi knew that luck was actually very important. Not only could it avoid misfortune, but it could also be more compatible with heaven and earth. He had only paid some resources for Nine Leaf to recuperate, and in exchange he could refine Nine Leaf for 3 days. It could be said to be a very good deal. Next, Nine Leaf first used a secret technique to hide his figure, while Lung Shiqi personally went to the treasury. Ever since he was promoted to the Great Supervisor, he had never been here before. When he walked in, he was stunned because the treasury was almost filled to the brim with dazzling resources. Lung Shiqi himself did not know that he was so rich. However, Lung Shiqi thought for a moment and understood. Hanzhou City's Dark Thunder Manor had plenty of resources. Even though Duan Chun had taken a portion of them with him when he left, there was still plenty left. In addition to the goods transported from Misty Chi City and Deer Marshall City's Dark Thunder Manor, it was reasonable for them to have such a scale. Although there were a lot of resources, Lung Shiqi could not casually take them. Right now he could be considered to have a large family business. Not to mention other things, just the Dark Thunder Manor in Hanzhou City alone had a few hundred people that needed him to feed them. The resources in front of him were the capital to feed these people. Next, Lung Shiqi began to choose the resources for Nine Leaf to recuperate, but at this time, he suddenly remembered something. That was the system map. After he obtained a portion of the system's authority, he only needed to spend 10,000 system coins to fully open the system map. Before this, Lung Shiqi had specially left 5,000 system coins to save up for opening the system map. However, after he came out of seclusion, he had not been idle. Especially in the past few days, because his subordinates were not completely familiar with the Dark Thunder Envoy's affairs. There were many things that he had to personally decide, so he was very busy. Now that he had entered the treasury, he remembered this matter. Thus, after Lung Shiqi took some resources for recuperation, he also gathered a large number of resources that were not used often and sold them all to the system for 5,000 system coins. Seeing that the resources in the treasury had decreased by less than half in the blink of an eye, Lung Shiqi did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was stuffing his own pockets so much that his pockets were about to burst. However, he was not too worried. In another half a month, the offerings from Misty Chi City, Deer Marshall City, and 10 other cities would be transported again. At that time, the deficit would naturally be made up for. Lung Shiqi also planned to wait for a period of time until everything stabilized before opening a trade route in Hanzhou City. At that time, there would definitely be more resources coming in. After Leng Shiqi brought a large number of resources to Nine Leaf, she directly began to recuperate in her room without any fear of Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi rubbed his nose. Although Nine Leaf was still in the body of a demonic beast, she was a genuine demoness. Furthermore, she was a demoness that could bring disaster to a country. In the past, when Nine Leaf's soul lived in his spiritual fantasy world, Leng Shiqi did not feel much, but now that they were squeezed in this room, he felt a little awkward. The most important thing was that he had too many secrets. With Nine Leaf by his side, he would have a lot of inconveniences. Leng Shiqi looked at Nine Leaf and saw that she had already entered a meditative state, so he withdrew his thoughts and silently opened the system. He directly opened the system map and clicked on the words, "Open Map." Opening the system map requires 10,000 system coins. Do you want to open it? Leng Shiqi secretly took a deep breath and chose yes. Immediately after, the entire system map trembled, and then the map began to shrink, shrink, and shrink again. The system map was infinitely zoomed, and Leng Shiqi's pupils gradually contracted. The surprise and shock in his eyes grew stronger and stronger, and he even began to doubt his own eyes. When the system map calmed down, Leng Shiqi was actually stunned for a long time. He was now in the Thunderfire dynasty. He had been to the easternmost Donglin county of the dynasty, and also the demonic Miasma mountain range to the north. Now he was sitting in the westernmost Shihuang county. It could be said that Leng Shiqi already spanned the east and west sides of the Thunderfire dynasty, so he could roughly estimate the size of the Thunderfire dynasty from the system map. Originally, he thought that the Thunderfire dynasty was already very big, but at this moment, when the system map was opened, the entire Thunderfire dynasty was just a small white dot on the map. A great country in this world was not even 1,000th of it. Even the falling star continent was nothing. In the current map, it seemed more appropriate to call this continent an island. There was only one thought in Leng Shiqi's mind: just how big is this world? Chapter 420. Leng Shiqi was in a daze in the room for a long time. After a long time, Leng Shiqi let out a long breath. He looked up. Although he could only see the roof, his eyes pierced through the clouds as if he could see through the 9 heavens. Leng Shiqi's eyes were full of determination. This time, the system map was fully opened. Although it did not increase his strength, it opened the door to a new world for him. It made him realize how vast and boundless this world was, and how splendid it was. It also made Leng Shiqi's vision and situation change dramatically. Blood Clothing Pavilion, Liuha Spiritual Region, Thunderfire Dynasty. These were called top and extraordinary forces. They could indeed dominate a region, but in this world, they were nothing. Originally, Leng Shiqi's requirement for himself was to become a powerhouse that could dominate a region. However, at this moment, he had a higher goal. He wanted to stand among the powerhouses of this world. He wanted to climb to the peak of this world. Now Leng Shiqi's pursuit of power was even more fervent, and he did not dare to slack off. He also knew that if he wanted to reach the goal in his heart, he had to slowly walk up one step at a time. Immediately, he set up the Yin-Yang Spirit Gathering Formation and immersed himself in cultivation. In the next few days, Leng Shiqi began to gradually hand over the matters to Guan Feihong, Qiu Cheng, and the others. He used all the time he saved to cultivate. During this period, he was also constantly deducing spiritual skills and improving his strength at all times. It was not until half a month later that Nine Leaf's injuries finally improved. Of course, his injuries had not fully recovered. After all, he had been chased by the forces of the East County, Hongguangji and Jidong. His external injuries had basically healed, but his internal injuries still needed to be slowly healed. However, Nine Leaf could already use a secret technique to isolate the restriction on the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Nine Leaf said solemnly, "I will first set up an aura isolating formation around the room, just in case. If you have any methods, you can use them. After setting it up, when I'm about to complete the technique, you can take out the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone." Leng Shiqi nodded to indicate that he understood. Nine Leaf's claws flicked repeatedly, and streams of purple light shot out like a fairy scattering flowers. weaving into a magnificent purple net in the room. Lung Shiqi, on the other hand, was much simpler. Although he did not know any formations or restrictions, he had goo worms. He consecutively released dozens of goo worms to crawl to the four corners of the room. Those goo worms opened their mouths and spat out a layer of faint gray mist, enveloping the entire room from the inside. Nineleaf glanced sideways at Lung Shiqi and said, "I knew there was a strange aura in your body. It turns out that it's these little bugs. These are goo worms. I obtained some when I was in Zhulu country. They are not very strong in direct combat, but they have some wonderful uses." Lung Shiqi explained. "Yes, your battle prowess is superb, but you have almost no other support abilities. With the help of these goo worms, it is indeed not bad. Alright, let's begin." At this point, Nineleaf's expression became even more solemn. Shortly after, Nineleaf's soul body left her body, and her hands flew, sending out a series of mysterious seals. After a short while, Nineleaf's soul body was a little weak, and she finally said, "Quick!" Lung Shiqi's heart moved, and the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone appeared in his hand. Once this treasure appeared, it immediately floated into the air. At the same time, Nineleaf pushed her hands, and those mysterious seals poured into the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. In an instant, the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone burst out with a bright purple light. It was the power of wind and thunder. But these wind and thunder powers were instantly suppressed by Nineleaf's seals. After the two were in a stalemate for a dozen breaths of time, the wind and thunder powers were completely defeated. At this time, the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone had no special characteristics. At first glance, it looked no different from an ordinary stone. Lung Shiqi and Nineleaf looked at each other and thought at the same time, "It's done. According to what we said before, I'll let you refine the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone for 3 days. After 3 days, I'll swallow it directly." With that, Nineleaf's soul returned to her body, and she closed her eyes to rest. Lung Shiqi picked up the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone, and was about to carefully examine it when Nineleaf's eyes suddenly opened. She said eerily, "Don't you dare play any tricks. I don't want something like the Heavenly Fey Soul Crystal to happen a second time." Lung Shiqi couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Senior, don't worry. I'll return it in 3 days. Besides, you're right beside me. Are you afraid I'll play any tricks?" This time, Nineleaf really closed her eyes to rest. After all, she had some internal injuries that needed to be healed. Lung Shiqi first held the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone and sized it up. He hadn't been idle these days. He ordered people to find all the information about the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone in Dark Thunder Manor and Bloodcloak Pavilion. He knew that the reason why the Wind Thunder Tower regarded it as the most precious treasure was that it contained a trace of congenital wind power and congenital thunder power. It was said that this treasure was born at the beginning of the world. It was originally an ordinary stone, but at the moment when the world was formed, it accidentally absorbed a trace of congenital power. After countless years, the congenital power contained in it was so thin that it almost didn't exist. But even so, it was enough to support a second-rate force like the Wind Thunder Tower. Once someone in the Wind Thunder Tower broke through to Gang Spirit Realm, they could use this treasure to condense congenital wind and congenital thunder spiritual Gang Qi. With the help of the wind and thunder technique, they could be the best in the same level. Now the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone was in Lung Shiqi's hands. Unfortunately, he didn't cultivate the power of wind thunder, so he could only absorb the power of wind and thunder very roughly. But even so, it could lay a solid foundation for him to break through to Gang Spirit Realm and condense Gang Spirit in the future. So Lung Shiqi didn't think much and directly began to absorb the power of wind and thunder. Just as Lung Shiqi began to refine the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone, Ji Dong, who was in the treasure room of the Wind Thunder Tower, was staring at the round plate in front of him with a pale face and sweating forehead. There were several spirit cultivators in the Spirit Aperture Realm sitting around Ji Dong. Each of them was trying their best to transfer spiritual power to Ji Dong, because Ji Dong had been maintaining this formation for half a month. Even though he had the cultivation of the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, he couldn't maintain a formation for a long time. But in order to sense the position of the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone at all times, he couldn't stop. So he had to let his disciples take turns to transfer spiritual power to him. And at this time, the needle in the round plate suddenly stopped and pointed in a certain direction. Ji Dong's exhausted eyes finally showed some joy. But then, the whole round plate suddenly collapsed and burst. Puff! Ji Dong spat out a mouthful of blood, and then fainted. His face was full of disbelief. Chapter 421. 3 days pass quickly. During these 3 days, Lung Shiqi kept refining the Wind and Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. He absorbed a lot of wind and thunder power from it, and stored it in his body. The wind and thunder power could be used to defend against enemies, and it could also help him condense spiritual highland in the future. However, these powers were like water without roots. Every bit he used was a bit less, so he couldn't use them casually. In addition, Lung Shiqi felt it was a pity that he didn't feel the mysterious power of luck from the Wind and Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. Perhaps the Wind and Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone didn't have such power at all. Even if it did, it would have been studied by the people of the Wind and Thunder Tower. When the 3 days were up, Nine Leaf woke up on time. She didn't say anything and directly sucked the Wind Thunder God's luck stone into her mouth. Then she burped and closed her eyes again. Lung Shiqi didn't care. He stretched his body and walked out of the door. Then he walked towards the meeting hall. In these 3 days, he ordered that no one should disturb him, so he was going to see if there was anything important to deal with. However, as soon as he walked out of his courtyard, he saw Guan Feihong walking towards him with a little anxiousness. "Old Guan, what's the matter?" Lung Shiqi asked with a slight frown. Hong Guangji cupped his hands and said, "My lord, yesterday Lord Yu sent a message asking you to go to the Western Wilderness City to see him. He said there's something important." Lung Shiqi immediately thought of the elite society that King Tai mentioned. He guessed that Yu Ruifeng wanted him to go to the elite society. Therefore, he was afraid that he would not be able to return in a short period of time. He still had to make some arrangements. It had been more than 20 days since he became the great supervisor. Whether it was the Dark Lightning Envoy or the Blood Clothing Pavilion assassins, they were all familiar with the various tasks of the Dark Lightning Guards. The other supervisors were all very honest, so it was easy to make arrangements in this regard. Lung Shiqi was most concerned about Nine Leaf now. Back in Donglin County, after Lung Shiqi entered the Mirage Spirit Mystic Realm, Nine Leaf had provoked a second-rate force, Extreme Fire Manor, and was hunted down. Fortunately, when the secret realm collapsed, most of the experts who were chasing after her had turned back. Not long ago, Nine Leaf had wreaked havoc in the East County, and was pursued by a large number of East County experts. In the end, she pretended to be captured, and hid in the Wind Thunder Tower. However, she was still dishonest and stole the Wind Thunder Tower's most valuable treasure. At this moment, Lung Shiqi was thinking about what kind of trouble Nine Leaf would stir up when he returned from the elite meeting. However, it wasn't convenient for him to bring Jiu out of the elite club, not to mention that he had too many secrets. The demonic aura on Nine Leaf's body definitely couldn't be hidden from the many experts. If there was another demonic slaughtering assembly, it would be a good show. Therefore, Lung Shiqi had to first consult Nine Leaf's opinion. Later, Lung Shiqi summoned several Dark Thunder emissaries and told them everything. Then he returned to the room and woke Nine Leaf up. "Senior Nine Leaf, I may leave for a while. What's your plan?" Nine Leaf opened his eyes and rolled them like a human, saying, "I'll go with you." Ha! Lung Shiqi obviously didn't expect Nine Leaf to make a decision so quickly, but he was also worried. "Senior, I'm going to attend a gathering this time. I'm afraid I'll meet many experts above the gang spirit realm." "It doesn't matter." Nine Leaf shook his head and said, "I've swallowed a lot of precious resources recently, especially the Wind Thunder Divine Stone, which contains a lot of power. I'm on the verge of advancement. As long as I completely refine the Wind Thunder Divine Stone, I can almost advance. At that time, my soul will fall into a deep sleep. As long as you keep my body well, no one will notice it." Lung Shiqi was shocked at first. Nine Leaf was going to advance again? He clearly remembered that the last time Nineleaf advanced to a rank 4 demonic beast was a few months ago. In just a few months, Nineleaf was going to advance again. It could be imagined that she must have swallowed countless precious resources during this time. Even Leng Shiqi couldn't help feeling sympathy for those forces in the East County. Leng Shiqi was surprised but also relieved. Nineleaf would enter a deep sleep state when she advanced to a rank 5 demonic beast. Even if he took her with him, he didn't have to worry about her spying on his secrets, nor did he have to worry about her being noticed by others. For Leng Shiqi, this was the perfect situation. Before leaving, Leng Shiqi went to the treasury again. In the past 2 days, resources from all over the country had been gathered, and the treasury was full again. Of course, Leng Shiqi came to fill his pockets again. Since he was going to attend this elite gathering, it was inevitable that he would meet all kinds of people. It was much more convenient to go back and forth with more spirit stones and resources. In addition, he also needed to save some system coins in case he needed them. In the end, Leng Shiqi left Hanzhou City with 30,000 spirit stones, and a large amount of commonly used resources, as well as 3,000 system coins. Hanzhou City was only 3 to 4 days away from Western Desolated City. Because Yu Ruifeng had sent him a message yesterday, Leng Shiqi directly used the Fate skill to arrive at Western Desolated City in 2 days. After the system was fully opened, the Fate skill no longer had any restrictions, and he could use it anytime and anywhere. After Leng Shiqi saw Yu Ruifeng, he found that his condition was much better, and his cultivation had also returned to the unity of heaven and man realm. However, Yu Ruifeng also found that Leng Shiqi had changed a lot. Leng Shiqi's cultivation didn't increase at all, but it gave Yu Ruifeng the feeling that it was like a bottomless well. Under the calmness and steadiness, it contained a terrifying power. What made Yu Ruifeng even more surprised was that Leng Shiqi's every movement had a trace of an expert's demeanor. The so-called demeanor of an expert wasn't a domineering aura, but the opposite. It was a change in the structure, a sublimation of one's state of mind. A true expert wouldn't care about petty profits, and wouldn't be limited by their horizons, because what they pursued was even greater power. But Yu Ruifeng felt a trace of this from Leng Shiqi. Yu Ruifeng smiled. Eunuch Gao's eyes are indeed sharp. He directly gave you a spot in the elite association, truly a wise eye. Hearing the words elite association, Leng Shiqi knew that it was indeed so. After a few humble words he asked, Martial Uncle, I've only heard of this elite association, but I don't know what it's for. Martial Uncle, please enlighten me. The elite association. Yu Ruifeng's eyes flashed with a trace of reminiscence. It's a place that can let you reach the heavens in a single step. Back then, I had the qualifications to sit on the patrol envoy position because I joined the elite association. Chapter 422. Leng Shiqi was shocked by Yu Ruifeng's words. It seemed that the elite meeting was a great opportunity. Since Eunuch Gao wants you to join the elite meeting, it seems that he intends to train you. You might even become the next inspector of the Western Desolate Province. Yu Ruifeng said. Leng Shiqi's heart tightened. He hurriedly said, Martial Uncle, I don't mean that. Nephew, you don't have to be like this. Yu Ruifeng waved his hand and said, Before I went to Zhulu, I also pursued power. However, the experience in Zhulu made me realize that power is the most important thing. In the past, I wasted too much time fighting for power, but I never thought about one thing. No matter how many contributions I made, it was impossible for me to be promoted to the position of one of the 4 great chiefs. Because I have Eunuch Gao above me. As long as he's alive, I have no chance at all. Even if he dies, he will only pass the position of Grand Chief to his trusted aide. So now I understand that the inspector position is my limit. Since that's the case, I might as well pursue the pinnacle of power. Although I'm still far from the heaven origin stage, it doesn't mean that I don't have a chance. If I'm lucky enough to break through to the heaven origin stage, I won't care about the position of 4 great chiefs. In the end, power is the most important thing. Leng Shiqi was deeply moved by Yu Ruifeng's words. This was what Leng Shiqi had always pursued. Even though he also fought for power and profit, He would never be blinded by power and influence. Just as Yu Ruifeng said, if he was at the heaven origin stage, eunuch Gao would have to bow to him. However, how could it be so easy to break through to the heaven origin stage? Sang Hetong didn't hesitate to sacrifice his entire sect's disciples and a large number of imperial guards in order to break through to the heaven origin stage. Unfortunately, he still failed. Thinking back to Meng Tianzong, the powerhouse from 10,000 years ago, he also used such cruel means to obtain more power. Therefore, one couldn't blindly seek power by unscrupulous means. At this moment, Yu Ruifeng finally talked about the elite gathering. The elite gathering gathers the geniuses from all over the Thunderblaze dynasty. There will be a round of tests at the beginning. This test will eliminate most of them, and those who pass the test will be qualified to enter the dragon vein to cultivate for a period of time. Speaking of this, Yu Ruifeng's eyes flashed with eagerness, and Lung Shiqi was also surprised. The dragon vein was the foundation of the Thunderflame dynasty. It was said that it was filled with an unimaginably miraculous power. Not only could it greatly increase one's cultivation, it could even allow one to be reborn and rebuild one's foundation, thereby improving one's aptitude. Of course, the most important thing was that the dragon vein was where the fortune of the Thunderflame dynasty gathered. It was usually guarded by many heavenly origin realm experts from the Imperial Hall of Worship. Not to mention ordinary people, even the relatives of the royal family would find it difficult to enter. If he could cultivate in the dragon vein for a period of time, the benefits would be unimaginable. I broke through to the gang spirit realm in the dragon vein. After returning to the Western Wilderness Prefecture, I directly served as the Great Supervisor. After that, he had a meteoric rise and smoothly ascended to the position of Patrol Envoy. Yu Ruifeng said with some nostalgia, with your aptitude, if you can cultivate in the dragon vein for a period of time, it won't be difficult for you to reach the gang spirit realm. In the future, when you have enough qualifications and strength, you can take over my position. Lung Shiqi finally understood what he was going to do. The elite meeting was actually to train the geniuses of the Dark Thunder Guards and the discipline department of the Thunderflame dynasty. The key point was the test. The winner's cultivation and status would be greatly improved, and he would reach the sky in one step. The loser could only go back the same way he came. Martial uncle, do you know what the test is? Lung Shiqi asked the key point directly. Yu Ruifeng shook his head slightly and said, as for the content of the test, it is different every time. I'm not sure, but it must be the kind of task that tests multiple abilities at the same time. But I have some guesses about the test this time, just guesses. I'm all ears. In the past, the elite meeting was held in the Imperial City, but I received news that it will be held in Donglin Town this time. Donglin Town? Lung Shiqi's eyes flashed. Donglin Town was the prefecture of Donglin County. This time the elite meeting was held in Donglin County. He didn't expect that after nearly a year, he would go back to Donglin County again. He thought to himself, well, there are still some grievances in Donglin County that haven't been solved. Yu Ruifeng continued. As far as I know, His Majesty is not in good health and is getting worse and worse. This elite meeting held in Donglin Town may be related to this. Hearing this, Lung Shiqi's thoughts raced. This situation was a bit similar to Zhulu country. As long as there was something wrong with His Majesty's health, the most important and urgent thing now was to fight for the throne. But Lung Shiqi didn't specially learn about the relationship between the princes in the dynasty, and he was not interested in learning about it. But this elite meeting might be involved in the fight for the throne. This was an unfathomable whirlpool. Once he was involved, he would be smashed to pieces if he was careless. This gave Lung Shiqi a headache. But you don't have to worry. Yu Ruifeng also noticed Lung Shiqi's strangeness and said, even if His Majesty is ill, he can still hold on for a few years. According to my guess, His Majesty wants to pave the way for the next generation before he dies. Donglin County is rich in terrain and has a sea area. It can be said to be a big piece of meat. But this piece of meat has been divided up by the major forces in Donglin County. When it comes to the dynasty, there is only a little soup left. So the test you will face after going to Donglin County is probably to deal with the spirit cultivator forces in Donglin County. Speaking of the spirit cultivator forces in Donglin County, the most impressive one was of course the Mountain Sea sect. As Yu Ruifeng said, Donglin County was rich, but most of the resources were swallowed up by various spirit cultivator sections. Among them, the Mountain Sea sect occupied the majority. It could be said that the Mountain Sea sect was a thorn in the side of the Thunderblaze dynasty. Lung Shiqi was secretly shocked. Does the dynasty want to make a move on the Mountain Sea sect? His Majesty wants to get rid of this thorn in his side before he dies. But he thought it was unlikely. If they only relied on the dozens of people who participated in the elite meeting, how could they be a match for the Mountain Sea sect? These are just my guesses. You will naturally know what the specific test is when the time comes. Yu Ruifeng took out a mustard seed bag and said, well, our West Wilderness County and Donglin County are at the east and west ends of the dynasty, the furthest away. I will take you to activate the teleportation array in West Wilderness County, but with my authority, I can only teleport you 3 times at most. As for the rest of the journey, you will have to walk by yourself. Fortunately, the elite meeting will only start in 3 months, so there is still time. I have specially prepared the things in this mustard seed bag for you. You represent the Dark Thunder Guards of West Wilderness County. When you arrive at Donglin County, you can't embarrass me. Lung Shiqi took the mustard seed bag and cupped his hands. Thank you for your reward, Martial Uncle. Well, come with me. Then Lung Shiqi followed Yu Ruifeng to the City Lord's mansion in West Wilderness City to activate the teleportation array. After half an hour, Lung Shiqi disappeared in the light of the teleportation array and embarked on the journey back to Donglin County. Chapter 423. More than a month later, Lung Shiqi walked into Shi City in Donglin County. This was the place where Lung Shiqi assassinated Lin Ying a year ago, and let 9 leave absorb Lin Ying's evil aura. Lung Shiqi did not go directly to Donglin County. Instead, he took a detour to Shi City to fulfill a promise. Before Lin Hui died, he used all his resources to ask Lung Shiqi to kill Li Wan, the curator of the Li Dojo. Li Wan was the real murderer, who paid money to kill Lin Ying. Lung Shiqi asked around in Shi City, and knew that the most powerful and famous dojo in the city was the Li Dojo. Ever since the news of Lin Hui's death in the illusory spirit secret realm spread, Li Wan had taken over the Lin Hui martial dojo at lightning speed. As if he had been prepared for this. In one fell swoop, he had become the sole owner of the Lin Hui martial dojo. With the support of a large number of resources, Li Wan also broke through to the late stage of the spiritual pulse realm, and sat firmly in the top position. At this moment, Lung Shiqi was sitting in the restaurant opposite the Li Dojo, eating and drinking comfortably. Since he set off from the Western Wilderness County, he used the teleportation formation to cross 3 states, but he could only walk the rest of the journey by himself. Fortunately, he had the fate skill. The journey that would have taken more than 2 months only took him a month. It could be said that Lung Shiqi had not stopped during this period. Now he could take a break. For the current Lung Shiqi, killing Li Wan, who was at the late stage of the spiritual pulse realm, was a piece of cake. A year ago, when he came out of the illusory spirit secret realm, the late stage of the spiritual pulse realm was still in existence that he had to look up to. But now, he could kill someone with such a cultivation. Even Lung Shiqi was a little surprised by his cultivation speed. At this time, 3 people at the table next to him were eating and chatting. Did you hear that the young master of the Li Dojo's cultivation has been regressing recently? I heard about this too. Some time ago, young master Li Yun was already at the peak of the pure spirit realm, and he was proud of it. But now, it is said that he only has the cultivation of the 7th level of the pure spirit realm left. He really deserves it. You can't say that. Who hasn't been young and frivolous? Don't you think there's something fishy about this? Tisk, even if there's something fishy, it's not something we can interfere with. Think about it carefully. A year ago, there was also a genius youth in our Shi city, who had his cultivation regressing. Oh, now that you mention it, I remember. A year ago, there was a Lin Hui martial arts school. At that time, Lin Ying, the son of Lin Hui, was also considered a genius among the rogue cultivators, but for some reason his cultivation had regressed all the way to the early stage of the pure spirit realm. Later on, Lin Ying seemed to have been assassinated and Lin Hui's cultivation level had increased greatly. He had obtained the illusory palace spirit and entered the illusory spirit secret realm. Who would have thought that he would die in the secret realm? What a pity, a martial arts club is gone just like that. Yes, there is indeed such a thing. Do you think there is a connection between them? Lung Shiqi, who heard these words, had a strange look in his eyes. According to these people, the young master of the Li Martial Arts Club, Li Yun, seemed to be in the same situation as Lin Ying. Lung Shiqi knew very well that the reason why Lin Ying's cultivation regressed was because he had this old grandpa who was absorbing his spiritual power. And now Li Yun was the same. Could it be that Li Yun was also possessed by the evil old man's soul? At this time, Nine Leaves' voice sounded. Lung Shiqi, let's go check on Li Yun first. I have refined the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone, and now I am only a little bit away from advancing. If Li Yun really has evil soul power on him, it would be great. Lung Shiqi felt that he had to sneak into the Li Martial Arts Club anyway, so he nodded and agreed. At night, Lung Shiqi sneaked into Li Yun's room without anyone noticing. Li Yun was a very handsome young man, but his face looked a little pale, as if his body had been hollowed out by wine and women. At this moment, Li Yun was holding 2 jugs of wine in each hand and pouring them into his mouth, looking like he was in a drunken stupor. It seemed that the regression of his cultivation had a big impact on him. Lung Shiqi saw this scene and shook his head secretly. Li Yun was far worse than Lin Ying in terms of temperament. Even if Lin Ying's cultivation had regressed, he did not slack off at all, and continued to cultivate diligently. On the other hand, Li Yun began to give up on himself when he was still at the 7th level of the pure spirit realm. Senior Nine Leaf, did you find anything? Lung Shiqi asked. Nine Leaf hesitated and said, I can't see it for the time being. His situation is a bit similar to Lin Ying's, but not the same. Let's use the old method and test him first. Then Lung Shiqi appeared. Before Li Yun could react, Lung Shiqi had made him fall into an illusion. Lung Shiqi released dozens of goo worms, most of which scattered in the corners of the room to isolate the aura and sound. There were also a few that climbed up Li Yun's limbs and bit him. Li Yun's body suddenly became stiff and couldn't move. Then Lung Shiqi flicked his finger, and a faint triple extinction sword chi shot out. With his current cultivation, even if it was just a sword chi, it was enough to kill Li Yun several times. Just as the triple extinction sword chi was about to reach him, a dense evil aura gushed out from the top of Li Yun's head, and as the evil aura rolled back, it swallowed the triple extinction sword chi. Seeing this scene, Lung Shiqi thought, sure enough, the method this time is better than last time, but it's still so impatient. After the evil aura defeated the triple extinction sword chi, it condensed into a huge old man's head. The old man's face was extremely ferocious as he stared at Lung Shiqi with murderous intent. Such a good body actually delivered itself to my doorstep. In that case, I will laugh. However, before the evil old man finished speaking, Nine Leaf's soul body appeared. After seeing Nine Leaf, the evil old man's voice came to an abrupt halt, and he revealed a horrified expression. The nefarious elder's body trembled as he attempted to escape from Li Yun. However, Nine Leaf sneered and opened his mouth slightly. An invisible suction force easily pulled the nefarious elder into Nine Leaf's mouth. Before the evil old man was swallowed, he left behind a ruthless sentence. I left a mark on your body, just wait to be hunted down by my original body. Burp, Nine Leaf suddenly burped. Someone is coming, it's the late-stage spirit pulse realm. As Lung Shiqi did not activate his supercilious eyes, his senses were much weaker than Nine Leaf's. However, when he heard that the person was at the late-stage spirit pulse realm, he knew who it was. In this Li dojo, only the dojo master Li Wan's cultivation was at the late-stage spirit pulse realm. Lung Shiqi muttered, just in time, it saves me the trouble of finding him. Lin Hui, I've completed your last wish. Not long after, only the bodies of Li Wan and his son were left in the room. Chapter 424. The next morning, the news of the strange death of Li Wan and his son from the Li Dojo quickly spread throughout the entire Shi city. This matter directly became a hot topic for everyone. They were all guessing what kind of powerful person Li Wan and his son had provoked, and their most suspicious target was the Su Dojo, which was second only to the Li Dojo. But the Su Dojo did not care about what those people said. After learning of the death of Li Wan and his son, the Su Dojo began to wantonly suppress the Li Dojo. After a while, the title of the strongest dojo in Shi City would probably fall on the Su Dojo's head, and the culprit of this matter, Leng Shiqi, had quietly left Shi City and was heading towards Donglin City. He was only here to fulfill the promise he made a year ago, and was not interested in the grudges between the dojos. After absorbing the remnant soul of the evil old man, Nineleaf finally reached the condition to advance again, and had already entered a deep sleep to prepare for his advancement. As for the threat of the evil old man before he was devoured, Leng Shiqi did not take it to heart. The remnant soul's target was always in Shi City, and it was always a pure spirit realm youth. This meant that the remnant soul of the evil old man was distributed near Shi City, and it was very weak. Moreover, as long as he finished participating in the elite meeting, he would return to the Western Desolate Province. No matter how powerful the evil old man was, it was impossible for him to go to the Western Desolate Province to seek revenge, right? Donglin City was located at the coastal area of Donglin County, and was not close to Shi City. Even if Leng Shiqi used the fate skill, it still took him a few days to reach Donglin City. As the county seat of Donglin County, this city was extremely magnificent, and in terms of area, it was even larger than Western Desolate City. Leng Shiqi walked into Donglin City, and the biggest feeling he had was that he could actually clearly feel the aura of the sea here. Gentle sea breeze with a faint smell of the sea waves blew on his face, completely different from the dry climate of Western Desolate City. The flow of people in this city was also very large, but different from Western Desolate City. Many people coming and going here were merchants from the 6 countries of the Western region. And most of the people in Donglin City were overseas merchants. However, after these overseas merchants brought in large amounts of rare resources, they would rarely sell them to ordinary shops. Instead, they would choose the shops of various spirit cultivator sects. It wasn't that the spirit cultivator sects offered higher prices, but that if you wanted to do business in Donglin County, you had to curry favor with those spirit cultivator sects first. Especially the Mountain Sea sect, Shiju Wu and Tang clan. Leng Shiqi had never been to Donglin town before. After walking a few streets, he found that the Mountain Sea sect alone occupied 2 whole streets. Together with other spirit cultivator forces, more than half of the streets in Donglin town were controlled by them. Let alone the Thunderfire dynasty, even the Leng Shiqi felt that this was too much. The spirit cultivator sect led by the Mountain Sea sect was indeed strong, but if they did not give face to the Thunderflame dynasty, something would happen sooner or later. Leng Shiqi's participation in the elite meeting this time might be related to these spirit cultivator sects. Not long after, Leng Shiqi walked to the gate of the Castellan mansion of Donglin town, where the elite meeting would be held. Who are you? What business do you have in the Castellan mansion? Before he reached the gate of the Castellan mansion, a city guard came up to interrogate him. This is my name card. Leng Shiqi took out an envelope. The city guard opened it and took a look, then immediately knelt down and said respectfully, "So it's the great supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guard of the Western Desolate Prefecture. This subordinate pays his respects to Lord Lu." Get up. Leng Shiqi continued to ask, "Are there any other Dark Thunder Guards or people from the Discipline Commission here recently?" The city guard showed a hesitant expression. In fact, this elite meeting was an internal affair of the Thunderfire dynasty. It was a grand event for those who could participate, but almost no outsiders knew about it. In fact, many of them had never even heard of the elite association before. Therefore, from a certain point of view, the elite meeting also had a certain degree of secrecy. Naturally, those who came to participate could not be casually revealed. Leng Shiqi narrowed his eyes, revealing a trace of coldness. The city guard immediately felt a chill on his back. He quickly said, "Lord, please follow me. We'll talk as we walk." Lung Shiqi nodded silently. The city guard walked beside him and said in a pressuring voice, Lord Lu, people have been arriving since 6 or 7 days ago. Now there are about 50 to 60 people. It seemed that he had come rather late. However, the Western Desolate Prefecture was too far away. It was almost across the entire Thunderfire dynasty, so he had rushed over at full speed. Do you know who they are? Lung Shiqi asked. Everyone who came in would have a name card, so the city guard in charge of receiving them should know. The city guard's expression turned bitter. Lord Lu, this subordinate has only been on duty for 2 days. I really don't know much. Then you also mean that you know how many? Just tell me how many there are. Lung Shiqi's tone sounded very calm, but it contained an irrefutable aura. The city guard could only helplessly say, during this subordinate's duty, 6 lords have come. Among them are Tianyan Prefecture's Discipline Commission's Dongfang Qi, Nanman Prefecture's Dark Lightning Guard's Buyangqiu, and Luoquan Prefecture's Discipline Commission's Blood Moon. Blood Moon? Hearing this name, Lung Shiqi's heart shook. He asked, Blood Moon? What a strange name. Lord Blood Moon is Luoquan Prefecture's Discipline Commission's commissioner. She is a woman. This subordinate doesn't know anything else. Called Blood Moon and a woman. This made Lung Shiqi immediately think of Delta Origi. However, Wuxia had mentioned that Delta Origi had entered the blood prison. It was unknown if she had come out or not. Even if she had come out, she couldn't have become a Discipline Commission's commissioner in such a short time. This was a position on the same level as the Dark Lightning Guard's supervisor. Moreover, to be able to participate in the elite meeting, not only did one need to have great potential and outstanding strength, one also needed to have great contributions. Therefore, this Blood Moon was likely not a Delta Origi. Perhaps it was just a coincidence. Lord, this way please. The city guard led Lung Shiqi into a unique small courtyard. Lord Lu, please rest here for a few days. This subordinate will call 2 servants to serve you. Lung Shiqi waved his hand and said, There is no need for servants. You can go. Yes, this subordinate obeys. After the city guard left, Lung Shiqi first released a few goo worms and hid them in the corners of the courtyard. If anyone trespassed, he would be the first to know. Just as Lung Shiqi was about to step into the room in the small courtyard, 4 people walked over while chatting and laughing. Lung Shiqi subconsciously turned his head and saw 2 acquaintances among the 4. And 2 acquaintances. Chapter 425. Among the 4 people, there were 2 men and 2 women. The 2 men looked to be around 30 years old, and they both had imposing appearances and extraordinary bearings. Of the 2 women, one was wearing a black dress with a veil on her face, giving off a mysterious feeling. Seeing this woman, Lung Shiqi was secretly surprised. This person was the woman in the black veil that he had met several times in the illusory spirit secret realm. Lung Shiqi remembered very clearly that he had almost killed this woman twice, but unfortunately he failed. The first time, he was interrupted by the people who were chasing him. The second time, this woman used an extremely powerful secret technique to escape. At that time, Lung Shiqi knew from the woman's conversation that she was a member of the Dark Thunder Guard, but he never expected to meet her again today. Furthermore, they had met as colleagues. At this time, the woman in the black veil had already reached the late stage of the spirit pulse realm, and her aura had reached perfection. It seemed that she could break through to the spirit aperture realm at any time. As for the woman next to her, her blood-red robe made her look exceptionally cold and elegant. When Lung Shiqi saw her face, he couldn't help but be stunned. This woman was actually Delta Origi. However, the current Delta Origi was a bit different from what he remembered. If he counted, Delta Origi should be around 16 years old, but at this moment, she looked like she was in her 20s. Her facial features and figure had all grown up. She was like a blooming blood-red rose, so gorgeous, so captivating, but also so powerful that she could hurt people without them noticing. Lung Shiqi just thought that Delta Origi couldn't possibly come here, but in the blink of an eye, he was slapped in the face. Therefore he still kept his head turned, and the 4 people naturally noticed him. The 2 men immediately walked over with a smile. The woman in the black veil stared at Lung Shiqi for a while. She actually felt that Lung Shiqi had a familiar feeling. However, she had never seen this person before, so she followed with doubts in her heart. As for Delta Origi, she recognized Lung Shiqi the moment she saw him. She noticed the astonishment in Lung Shiqi's eyes. She smiled inwardly and walked over. I am the commissioner of Tianyin County's Discipline Department, Dongfeng Qi. I am the supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guard of the Southern Barbarian region, Buyangqiu. May I know your name? The two men introduced themselves one after another. Lung Shiqi thought to himself, aren't these two the people who just arrived here 2 days ago? However, since the other party treated him with respect, Lung Shiqi also cupped his fists and said, I am the great supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guard of the Western Desolate Province, Lu Xingji. The great supervisor. When they heard this, they were all shocked. She's from the Discipline Division of Luoquan Prefecture. Blood Moon was naturally Delta Origi. However, Delta Origi's current persona was very cold, which was very similar to her nature. Delta Origi nodded at Lung Shiqi as a greeting. Buyangqiu laughed heartily and said, Brother Lu, we were just about to go out for a stroll. How about we go together? To be qualified to participate in the elite meeting, these people were definitely the most capable people in their respective prefectures. Although they were each other's opponents, they were scattered all over the Thunderblaze dynasty. It could be said that apart from the competitive relationship in the elite meeting, there was almost no conflict of interest between them. Therefore, it was definitely profitable for them to make friends with each other. Lung Shiqi immediately said, Then I'll accept your invitation. That's great. Brother Lu, please. Please. As a result, the original 4 people became 5 people. Since they had nothing to do, they leisurely strolled around Donglin town. They even drank and helped each other in restaurants. It was not until the night fell that they returned. However, when they were separated, Lung Shiqi secretly winked at Delta Origi. When it was late at night, Lung Shiqi rolled his eyes and avoided everyone, quietly sneaking into Delta Origi's room. Delta Origi was already sitting on a chair, playing with a white jade dagger in her hand. It seemed that she had been waiting for Lung Shiqi for a long time. You're really slow, Delta Origi muttered with slight dissatisfaction. Lung Shiqi laughed dryly. Now that there are so many experts in the city lord's residence, I have to be cautious. When he saw Delta Origi, he had countless questions in his heart. However, Delta Origi asked first. What's your relationship with that Lianyi? Her voice sounded slightly cold, which made Lung Shiqi's heart skip a beat. Chapter 426. Lung Shiqi felt a bit of a headache when faced with this question. Gu San slanted his eyes and said, Don't say that you have nothing to do with her. Ever since she saw you, her eyes have been faintly discernible looking at you. I also saw it clearly. Lung Shiqi shook his head helplessly. He could only tell the story of him and Lianyi in the most sincere tone. At the end he added, It's impossible for her to recognize me. In fact, Lung Shiqi had another thought. Lianye's memories had been secretly tampered with by Meng Tianzong. However, this was only his guess. Moreover, Meng Tianzong's matter was a worry in his heart, so he didn't say it out loud. Delta Origi chuckled after hearing this and said, So you two are still life and death enemies. I was just asking casually, don't think too much. If I wasn't thinking too much, why did you ask? Of course Lung Shiqi didn't say this out loud. He directly changed the topic and asked, Right, I heard from Master that you went to the blood prison? That's right. Delta Origi replied indifferently. Although the blood prison is full of dangers, there are also many opportunities. I broke through to the spirit aperture realm in the blood prison. Delta Origi stared at Lung Shiqi. Even so, I wasn't as fast as you. Lung Shiqi also understood that strength didn't come out of nowhere. Whether it was him or Delta Origi, they both experienced countless life and death situations to have their cultivation soar. In other words, they exchanged their lives for strength. He also knew that Delta Origi was a strong person, so he continued to change the topic. It's really unexpected to see you here. When did you leave the blood prison? How did you join the discipline commission and participate in the elite meeting? Lung Shiqi asked 3 questions in a row. Delta Origi rolled her eyes at him, but she still answered. After breaking through to the spirit aperture realm, I took the initiative to leave the blood prison. Later, Master told me about the Blood Seed Project, and said that you had already made a name for yourself in the Western Desolate Province. So, I also started the Blood Seed Project and entered the Discipline Commission. As for why I can participate in the elite meeting, have you heard of Blood Demon Venerable? Blood Demon Venerable? How did this matter involve this person again? Lung Shiqi carefully searched through his memories and shook his head. No. Venerable Blood Demon Venerable is a rogue cultivator, but he is a Sky Origin Realm expert. Lung Shiqi was shocked. It was his first time hearing about a Tianyuan stage itinerant cultivator. Then Delta Origi's next words Lung Shi said. Venerable is demon, venerable as bone is. Venerable Blood Demon Venerable. Is Venerable Demon Venerable? Lung Shiqi instantly remembered that his master Wuxia also had another identity in the outside world. Back then, Wuxia used that identity to arrange for him to join the Dark Thunder Guards. He couldn't help but think that the Blood Seed Project might have been in the Blood Seed Project several generations ago. The Blood Seed Project didn't just rely on Lung Shiqi and the others, it also needed the efforts of several generations to break through the current shackles. So, this was a plan that lasted several hundred years. Delta Origi continued. Venerable Blood Demon Venerable's face is too big. Moreover, he has an old friendship with the provost of Luoquan Prefecture's Discipline Commission, so he easily let me enter the Discipline Commission. Moreover, he even stood his ground and allowed me to join the elite meeting. Hearing this, Lung Shiqi finally understood why Delta Origi could come here. Although Delta Origi had just joined the Discipline Commission of Luoquan County, she had Venerable Blood Demon Venerable as her backer. Many problems were easily solved. So that's how it is, Lung Shiqi said. Delta Origi said. Of course, but I heard from Venerable Bone that there may be more to this elite meeting. We have to be careful. And this time, the Dongling County branch will fully cooperate with us and help us get the biggest credit. Hearing the first half of Delta Origi's words, Lung Shiqi also remembered that Yu Ruifeng had said that His Majesty was not feeling well. This elite meeting might also be related to the fight for the throne. When he heard the second half of the sentence, he immediately thought of a person, Feng Shamo. More than a year ago, before Lung Shiqi returned to the General Pavilion to be promoted as a blood-clothed assassin, Feng Shamo had also hinted that Lung Shiqi should stand in his team. Now that Lung Shiqi had returned to Dongling County, if he wanted to use the power of the blood-clothed pavilion, he was bound to cross paths with Feng Shamo again, which Lung Shiqi did not want to see. Because he did not want to participate in the competition for the next pavilion master so early. Now that he thought about it, it was better to stay in the West Wilderness County. The sky was high, and the Emperor was far away. No one could control him. Then the two chatted casually for a while, and Lung Shiqi went back. In the next few days, in addition to cultivation, he also met other people who participated in the elite meeting, but he did not get too close to them. It was not until half a month later that the last person of the elite meeting finally arrived. This person had some connections with Lung Shiqi, because he came from the Discipline Commission of the West Wilderness County. His name was Su Gaojia. Su Gaojia had actually teleported 2 or 3 counties away like Lung Shiqi, but he did not have the fate skill, so he was the last person to arrive in Dongling County even though he moved at full speed. Once Su Gaojia arrived, it meant that the elite meeting could begin. On this day, there were nearly 100 people sitting in the hall of the governor's mansion. These people were all elites from the various counties of the Thunderblaze dynasty. At this time, the entire hall was unusually quiet, and everyone was waiting for the person who would host the elite meeting. According to the past practice, there should be 2 people who would host the elite meeting, one from the Dark Thunder Guards and the other from the Discipline Commission. And they must be the higher-ups. While waiting, Lung Shiqi looked around. At this moment, those who could sit here were the best young elites selected from all over the country. Judging from their appearance, most of them looked to be in their 20s or 30s. However, Leng Shiqi knew that they were not young, at least around 40 years old. And the reason why they looked so young was because they had broken through to the spiritual pulse realm early enough. After entering the 4 realms of heaven and man, their bodies would be baptized by the power of heaven and earth. From then on, they would be reborn, and their lifespan would be extended. Naturally, they would also be able to slow down aging. If a person broke through to the spiritual pulse realm very early, they would be able to maintain their youthful appearance for dozens of years. At this time, the host of Donglin County, City Lord Fengluan, led 2 people into the hall. Everyone's attention was immediately attracted, and then they were all secretly surprised. Among the 2 people, there was a woman in a palace dress who was graceful and luxurious. She was one of the 4 punishment envoys of the Discipline Commission, Lei Mayan. Not only did she have the powerful cultivation of unity of heaven and man, but she was also a relative of the Thunderblaze dynasty, and was a princess. As for the other person, Leng Shiqi recognized him. He was one of the 4 Dark Thunder Guards, Eunuch Gao. Chapter 427. Lei Mayan and Eunuch Gao. These 2 are not only the higher-ups of the Discipline Commission and the Dark Thunder Guards, they also have very high statuses. Lei Mayan is a Junju, while Eunuch Gao is one of His Majesty's personal attendants. It can be said that these 2 are deeply imprinted with the mark of the Thunderflame dynasty, engraved with the mark of the imperial family. The moment the 2 of them appear, a slight noise immediately resounds in the hall. Whether it's the Dark Thunder Guards or the Discipline Commission, Lei Mayan and Eunuch Gao are the superiors of superiors. It's rare for everyone to see them on a daily basis. Their appearance here at the same time naturally causes a commotion. However, these 2 have grave expressions on their faces, especially Eunuch Gao, whose eyes reveal a bit of gloominess. Wherever his gaze passes, everyone lowers their heads, not daring to meet his gaze. Eunuch Gao looks around at everyone. Only when he sees Leng Shiqi, his expression slightly pauses. He and Lei Mayan walk to the top of the hall. After they sit down, everyone stands up and says in unison, "Greetings, Steward Gao, greetings, Punishment Envoy Lei." Eunuch Gao sits expressionlessly, without any intention of opening his mouth to speak. Lei Mayan smiles sweetly and says, "Everyone is too courteous, please sit." After everyone sits down, Lei Mayan continues, "Since everyone is able to sit here, you must be the young elites of various provinces and counties, and will be the pillars of my Thunderflame dynasty in the future. According to the usual practice of previous years, there will be a test after the elite meeting begins. I believe you all know about this." Speaking to here, Lei Mayan changes the topic, but this year is different from the past. Hearing this, everyone shows a puzzled expression, but they don't ask any questions. In the past it was called a test, but this year, to be more precise, it should be a mission. Lei Mayan's eyes faintly reveal traces of cold light. The mission this time must be completed. There is only success, no failure. And those who perform outstandingly in the mission can enter the next round of the elite meeting. As for the others, they can go back to where they came from. Leng Shiqi also frowned slightly. They actually came here to complete a mission, and it's a mission that must be completed. Hearing Lei Mayan's tone, that mission is probably not simple. At this moment, Lei Mayan hinted to City Lord Fengluan. Fengluan took 2 steps forward and waved his arm, shooting out a ball of green light. The green light condensed into 3 lines of words in the air, each of which was 10 feet away from the other. Everyone who saw these words secretly sucked in a breath of cold air, including Leng Shiqi. The 3 lines read, "Destroy the second-rate sect, the Great Righteousness Sect. Destroy the second-rate sect, the Salt Clan. Destroy the second-rate sect, Extreme Fire Manor." Their mission was to destroy these spirit cultivator forces, and all of them were second-rate sects. Fengluan said, "There are 3 missions here. You can freely choose one of them. Those who choose the same mission will form a team. From now on, you can't rely on the power and help behind you. You'll have to rely on your own abilities to complete the mission." As soon as this was said, many people looked at each other. These 3 missions were to destroy second-rate forces. Although more than 90% of the people present had the cultivation of the spirit aperture realm, if they all attacked together, it was indeed possible to destroy a second-rate sect. But now they had to be separated into 3 groups. This way, it would be very difficult to destroy a second-rate sect. Assuming that the number of people in each group was about the same, there would only be a little over 20 people. Theoretically speaking, it was impossible to complete the mission with so few people. Of course, if the mission was simple, there would be no need for these elites gathered from all over the empire to do it. Lung Shiqi narrowed his eyes as he looked at the 3 missions. He had stayed in Donglin County for a period of time, so he was quite clear about the forces here. The Great Righteousness sect was a rather interesting sect. This sect didn't accept disciples based on aptitude or talent, but based on whether or not you had the code of brotherhood. In the Great Righteousness sect, brotherhood was the most important. The Great Righteousness sect walked the world with the code of brotherhood, eliminating violence and bringing peace to the people. But the Thunderfire Empire actually wanted to destroy such a sect? Lung Shiqi's thoughts turned rapidly. He could only think of one possibility, and that was that the Great Righteousness sect was a vassal sect of the Mountain Sea sect. It could also be said that the Great Righteousness sect was a pawn of the Mountain Sea sect. The Thunderfire Empire saw the Mountain Sea sect as a thorn in their side, so they wanted to get rid of their pawn first. Lung Shiqi's thoughts weren't without reason, because it wasn't just the Great Righteousness sect, but also the Salt Gang. The Salt Gang was a sect that made a fortune in the salt transportation business. The Salt Gang controlled more than half of the salt transportation business in Donglin County, so they were simply overflowing with wealth. Such a sect would be coveted by many people, but the Salt Gang was very smart. They took the initiative to become a vassal of the Mountain Sea sect. Every year, they would hand over 50% of their profits to the Mountain Sea sect in order to protect themselves. Therefore, the Salt Gang could be considered the Mountain Sea sect's money bag. Whether it was the Great Righteousness sect or the Salt Gang, it was understandable that they were on the Thunderfire Empire's blacklist, but Lung Shiqi felt that it was a little strange that the Extreme Fire Manor was also on the list. The Extreme Fire Manor was originally far away from the Mountain Sea sect, and it also didn't have any connections with the Mountain Sea sect, so why was it also on the Thunderfire Empire's blacklist? Looking at the 3 missions, Lung Shiqi began to think about which one to choose. Not only him, but the others were also whispering in low voices. Some of the people who were familiar with each other also gathered in groups of 3 to 5 to discuss. Lung Shiqi and Delta Origi silently looked at each other, wanting to seek her opinion. Delta Origi slightly shrugged her shoulders, indicating that it didn't matter what she chose. Lung Shiqi wasn't in a hurry to choose, so he decided to see what the others chose first. Not long after, a group of people walked forward and stood in front of the different missions. Time slowly passed, and Lung Shiqi realized that the number of people for the 3 missions was about the same. Although it was said that the more people there were, the easier it would be to complete the mission. Don't forget that the mission this time still depended on your performance and contribution. The more people there were, the lower the chances of you being able to stand out. Therefore, everyone tacitly agreed to split up so that the number of people for each mission was about the same. This was the best choice. In the end, there were only a few people left who hadn't made their choice. Lung Shiqi had thought about it for a long time. He stepped forward and stood in front of the mission to destroy the Extreme Fire Manor. There were 3 reasons why he chose the Extreme Fire Manor. First, the Extreme Fire Manor wasn't close to the Mountain Sea sect, so he didn't need to worry about the Mountain Sea sect's support when dealing with the Extreme Fire Manor. Second, the Extreme Fire Manor's location was close to the Shadowwind Ridge. If he really couldn't do it, he could ask for help from the branch's assassins. As for the third reason, Lung Shiqi still remembered that Nine Leaf had said that the Extreme Fire Manor had a very precious treasure. A treasure that even a rank 7 great demon like Nine Leaf coveted was definitely something good. Chapter 428. After Lung Shiqi chose Extreme Fire Village's mission, the Delta Origi also stood up silently. Lung Shiqi looked around. Coincidentally, Dongfangqi, Buyangqiu, and Lianyi were also here. He greeted them and stood still without saying anything. After everyone finished choosing, there were a total of 23 people who chose Extreme Fire Village's mission. Seeing that everyone had finished choosing, Lei Mian said, "Since everyone has made their choice, I'll talk about the mission's rules. First of all, as City Lord Feng said before, you can't use the power behind you. If you're discovered, you'll be disqualified from the elite group. Of course, we'll also prepare some necessary resources for you. You can go to the treasury to collect them later. The mission's time limit is 3 months. No matter what method you use, we'll only look at the results. If you can't complete the mission after 3 months, you'll all be eliminated." Hearing this, everyone's heart felt like it was being pressed down by a mountain. 3 months to destroy a second-rate force? And with just these few people? But if they couldn't complete the mission, everyone in their group would be eliminated. No wonder Lei Mian said that this was a mission that they had to succeed. Leng Shiqi crossed his arms and lowered his head slightly. He was looking for a way to destroy Extreme Fire Village within 3 months, but he didn't have any ideas at the moment. At this time, Eunuch Gao, who had been silent all this time, opened his mouth. His voice still sounded so hoarse and ear-piercing. "Disperse." As soon as Eunuch Gao opened his mouth, the entire hall was shrouded in a layer of cold air. Everyone hurriedly excused themselves. Leng Shiqi's group of 23 went to collect their respective resources first. The resources were neither too much nor too little, just enough for them to use. So they couldn't count on using these resources to recruit people. This group of people quickly fell into silence. Dongfangqi rolled his eyes and said loudly, "Everyone, since our mission is the same, and it's obvious that it's impossible to succeed with just one person's ability, we have to work together. If possible, it's best if we can elect a leader. That way, we'll be able to coordinate our work and it'll be more convenient." Everyone present was a smart person. Once Dongfangqi said this, everyone immediately guessed his intention. Dongfangqi wanted to be the leader himself. As soon as he finished speaking, more than 10 people responded, including Buyangqiu. Clearly, Dongfangqi had already won them over. In fact, Dongfangqi had also come to Leng Shiqi a few days ago, but at that time, Leng Shiqi did not see him in the name of cultivation. At this time, Leng Shiqi secretly shook his head when he saw this scene. This Dongfangqi was too impatient. He did not know the information and character of everyone in this group before he rashly stepped forward. Little did they know that the bird that sticks out gets shot. Sure enough, someone was not convinced. Dongfangqi, if you want to be the leader, just say it. Why do you have to beat around the bush? However, if you want to rise to the top and order us around, we still have to see if you have the ability to do so." The person who spoke had a dark complexion and a strange headdress on his head. At this time he was looking at Dongfangqi with a sneer. Dongfangqi knew that those who were able to participate in the elite meeting were not arrogant. It would not be easy for him to lead these people. He smiled and asked, "May I know your name?" "Ningyang Region's Discipline Minister, Dichuan." "Brother Dichuan, do you think what I just said makes sense?" "What you said makes sense. I just feel that you don't have the qualifications." Dichuan's words did not give Dongfangqi Lu any face. Dongfangqi's smile gradually disappeared, but before he could say anything, Dichuan's body shook and a huge amount of spirit energy surged out. This Dichuan was actually at the 9th level of the spirit aperture realm. At this moment, Dongfangqi's face suddenly became very ugly. His cultivation was not weak, and was at the 8th level of the spirit aperture realm. However, in front of Dichuan, it was not enough. Dongfangqi said in a deep voice, "Brother Dichuan's cultivation is profound. I admire it. However, to be the leader, you need not only cultivation, but also ability." "Haha, what a joke." Dichuan sneered. "We only have a total of 3 months. Are we going to compete to see whose ability is stronger? Who knows how long it will take for us to finish competing? From what I see, whoever's fist is bigger will be the boss." "That's right. In the path of spirit cultivators, strength is respected. I feel that Dichuan is more suitable to be the leader. I also support Dichuan." After Dichuan finished speaking, a few people stood beside him. It seemed that he came prepared. Dong Fengqi was very uncomfortable. Even though he had more people, in terms of pure strength he was indeed not as good as Di Chuan. If he could not pay Di Chuan and the others, then he would not be able to lead everyone. Right now, their group was immediately divided into 3 groups. They were led by Dong Fengqi and Di Chuan respectively. As for the last 3 people, they had not chosen a team. These 3 people were Leng Shiqi, Delta Origi, and Lian Yi. They were not roped in by either side. Although Lian Yi came from the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters, and her identity was definitely not ordinary. Her cultivation was only in the Spirit Pulse realm. There was a need to make friends with such people, but there was no need to rope them in, because you might not be able to take out any benefits to rope them in. Moreover, even if you roped in a Spirit Pulse realm person, it would not be of much use. And Delta Origi had always kept people at a distance. It was usually difficult to talk to her, let alone rope her in. As for Leng Shiqi, although he had made friends with others, it was only a nodding acquaintance. Moreover, he often locked himself in his room to cultivate. Others did not have a chance to rope him in. Di Chuan's gaze fell on the 3 people. He suddenly had an idea. He cupped his hands and said, "Brother and 2 ladies, I have always been straightforward. As long as you are willing to support me, I dare to guarantee that no matter what danger there is in the future, I can guarantee your safety. I will do what I say, because I have the strength." He even emphasized the word strength, and looked at Dong Fengqi with a provocative look. Dong Fengqi's face darkened again. If Leng Shiqi and the others all supported Di Chuan, then his advantage in numbers would be gone. Therefore he had to rope in Leng Shiqi and the others. Dong Fengqi hurriedly said to Leng Shiqi, "Brother Lu, you and I have known each other for a while. I also admire Brother Lu very much. How about?" However, before he finished speaking, Leng Shiqi waved his hand and stopped him. Leng Shiqi took a step forward and said, "Why bother? You guys don't have to quarrel. I will be the leader." Chapter 429. As soon as Leng Shiqi said this, everyone turned to look at him. Dong Fengqi looked at him in astonishment, while Di Chuan's eyes were still filled with disdain. In Di Chuan's view, Dong Fengqi was at least at the late stage of Gang Spirit realm. He was smooth and eloquent, so he could win over such a person and be qualified to be Di Chuan's opponent. However, Leng Shiqi's cultivation was only at the 5th level of spiritual aperture realm. A person with such a cultivation came out and said that he wanted to be the leader. He must be joking. Dong Fengqi's face also darkened. "Brother Lu, what do you mean?" "Literally," Leng Shiqi said casually. Di Chuan smiled coldly. "Everyone can talk big, but you don't deserve it." Leng Shiqi did not answer him. Instead, he stretched out his index finger and hooked it gently. Di Chuan was immediately furious. A black and red sword appeared in his hand. As soon as the sword appeared, it surged with waves of evil spirit. It was a 6th-level spiritual sword. Dong Fengqi and others were all surprised. He secretly rejoiced that he did not rashly fight with Di Chuan. Otherwise, he could not deal with this 6th-level spiritual sword alone. Di Chuan snorted coldly. The long sword in his hand slashed out with fierce evil spirit. There was even a bloody light surging in it, which was extremely powerful. The rest of the people retreated at the same time. Some people secretly laughed at Leng Shiqi for overestimating himself and provoking Di Chuan. Now, not only would he lose face, but he would also be injured. However, Leng Shiqi was not afraid. The inky jade sword was unsheathed and immediately exuded an extremely sharp qi. The sword instantly bloomed with a dazzling bloody light. Leng Shiqi slashed out with his sword. The ferocious bloody light suddenly appeared. In an instant, the inky jade sword slashed out with a harsh sword sound and a strong evil spirit. The power that he suddenly broke out was also shocking. In terms of power, Leng Shiqi did not seem to be worse than Di Chuan. And the spiritual sword he used was also a 6th-level spiritual sword. Everyone could not help but be surprised. When did a 6th-level spiritual weapon become so worthless? Ding ding ding. The 2 swords collided. Although it was only one blow, it actually made several collision sounds. There were as many as 7 sounds. At the same time, the violent spiritual power burst out with the 2 people as the center. The expensive floor tiles on the surrounding ground instantly exploded and flew away, turning the surroundings into a mess. Di Chuan and Leng Shiqi didn't care about this at all, especially Di Chuan. The moment he exchanged blows with Leng Shiqi, he immediately felt Leng Shiqi's terrifyingly powerful strength. He was at the 9th level of Gang Spirit Realm, but he couldn't defeat Leng Shiqi in terms of pure strength. What shocked him even more was that Leng Shiqi's attack seemed to be a single strike, but it was actually 7 strikes. It was not that the speed of the swords was very fast. If it was 7 swords in a moment, Di Chuan could easily do it. On the other hand, Leng Shiqi had actually combined the 7 swords into one, and only unleashed it at the moment of the exchange. Like a tidal wave, one sword strike after another shook Di Chuan to the point that the web between his thumb and forefinger split open. At that moment, Di Chuan could not even hold the hilt of his sword firmly. Di Chuan was defeated by this move. In fact, this move was Leng Shiqi's biggest gain during this period. He combined the 17 swords of Mount Song with the 7 swords of bloody killing that Wuxia gave him. When the sword was unleashed, it was actually 7 swords stacked together. And he could also change the sword style and sword intent at will, which was changeable and had great power. However, Leng Shiqi did not intend to end the battle so easily. With a shake of his sword, dozens of tri-extinction sword chi shot out. Di Chuan looked at the oncoming sword chi and was shocked. He made a gesture with his left hand, and twisted devil chi flashed around him. The devil chi seemed to be able to twist everything, and the strange power strangled most of the sword chi. At the same time, Di Chuan moved his body and dodged some of them, but in the end, dozens of sword chi still entered his body. The sword chi entered his body, burned his meridians, froze his blood flow, and sealed his meridians. Di Chuan let out a muffled groan. His face was green and red, and he pursed his lips to prevent the blood in his mouth from spitting out. There was suddenly silence in the field. Anyone could see that Di Chuan was definitely at a disadvantage, but this result completely subverted everyone's expectations. Di Chuan was at the 9th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. With a 6th level spiritual sword, he could even fight with masters of the Gang Spirit Realm. But now he was defeated by Leng Shiqi in 2 moves. Everyone was familiar with fighting above their level, because those who could participate in the elite meeting were all outstanding people in the same level. They could also fight above 1 or 2 levels. But Leng Shiqi crossed 4 levels in a row and defeated Di Chuan easily. Then, how strong was his true strength? Dong Fengqi looked at Leng Shiqi with a bit of shock in his eyes. At this moment, he was even more glad that he didn't fight with Leng Shiqi. Otherwise, he might not even be able to take one move. Lian Ye's beautiful eyes were also full of splendor, because she also saw a trace of familiarity from Leng Shiqi's 2 moves just now. If she felt a bit of déjà vu towards Leng Shiqi, then it could be said that she had met him once somewhere. But if the spiritual technique also had a familiar feeling, then it was worth thinking about. Fortunately, Leng Shiqi had now integrated the pulse-punching sword chi and the 17 sword techniques of Mount Song into other spiritual techniques. Otherwise, Lian Yi might have noticed something. As for Delta Origi, she just smiled quietly. She had long been accustomed to Leng Shiqi's extraordinary combat power. Actually, the moment Leng Shiqi stepped out, she already knew the outcome. But she still sighed in her heart. While she was trying her best to catch up to Leng Shiqi, she realized that she was getting further and further away from Leng Shiqi. Although Delta Origi's cultivation was only at the 1st level of the Spirit Aperture Realm, she was confident that she was comparable to a 4th level Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator. But if she wanted to defeat a 4th level Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator in 1 or 2 moves, she couldn't do it. Leng Shiqi put away his sword and said, "Brother D just said that strength is respected. Who else wants to come and experience it?" He looked around. His gaze didn't have a trace of aggression, but everyone silently didn't dare to look at him. Di Chuan also had a gloomy expression and didn't say a word. Leng Shiqi then turned to Dong Fengqi and said, "Brother Dongfeng said that strength is more important. I'm not talented, but as the great supervisor, My strength should be acceptable, right? Everyone present, other than Dong Fangqi and Buyang Qiu, were shocked. He was the Great Supervisor, the Spirit Aperture Realm Great Supervisor. In terms of strength, Leng Shiqi was the best. In terms of ability, there was no need to talk about it. To be able to become the Great Supervisor at the Spirit Aperture Realm, how could his ability be weak? Everyone stopped talking. At this moment, they had already tacitly accepted Leng Shiqi as their leader. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.